Chapter 68. Under Lin Feng's control. The 24 golden arhats stood in 3 directions, surrounding Sikong Nan in the middle. The 3 flame arhats rose into the air. Below each flame arhat, there were 7 arhats holding them up, supplying a steady stream of Buddhist light to the flame arhats. The flames on the flame arhats grew bigger and bigger. They rushed into the sky and connected above Sikong Nan's head, turning into a sea of fire. Lin Feng's face was filled with anger. He stared and shouted, "My Buddha is merciful," transforming into anger and anger. "Unleash endless anger, destroy all demons and burn everything." Rumble. The entire space of the underworld pearl shook. Then, an angry golden Buddha with 4 faces and 8 arms slowly rose from the sea of fire. There was a closed vertical eye between the Buddha's brows. The golden Buddha chanted deafeningly. Amidst the Buddha's chants, the vertical eye between the Buddha's brows opened. From the vertical eye, a milky white flame shot out. The milky white flame looked extremely fragile, as if it could be extinguished by a gust of wind. Seeing this, Sikong Nan was terrified. "Wisdom monarch, you actually cultivated the fury of the Akalanatha." The milky white flame burned in the air. Wherever the flame went, the space began to collapse and disintegrate. Lin Feng pointed with his finger. The milky white flame instantly turned into a straight line and shot towards Sikong Nan. Wherever the line of fire passed, the underworld pearl's power to purify everything was instantly destroyed. It could not stop the line of fire from advancing. When the line of fire hit the black fog protecting Sikong Nan's body, it was like a spark splashing into a pot of oil. Boom! The black fog was completely annihilated and burned, turning Sikong Nan into a flaming man. Whether it was the underworld pearl's power or Sikong Nan's power, at this moment, they all became fuel for the fire, fueling it. The fury of the Akalanatha. Within the flames, there was an incomparable anger. Even a Buddha would get angry, burning all angry thoughts. Even if they were both flames, as long as they were not the 7 great true fires, they would all be burned by the fury of the Akalanatha. Sikong Nan finally felt the threat of death. His heart was filled with fear. When a tiger falls to the plains, it will be bullied by a dog. This old man has actually been reduced to being ridden on by such a junior. If it was in the past, I would have crushed him to death with a single finger. At this juncture, I can't care so much anymore. Even if this old man dies, I will drag you down with me." Sikong Nan roared. "Little bastard, let's die together." As he roared, a low rumble came from the depths of the underworld pearl's space. Lin Feng frowned slightly and listened attentively. It seemed to be the sound of flowing water. "This is..." Lin Feng's expression changed drastically as he thought of something. But it was already too late to react. The sound of flowing water grew louder and louder. In the end, it turned into a loud rumbling sound, as if a dam had burst. A long river with a dim yellow color and transparent water rushed straight down, pouncing towards Lin Feng and Sikong Nan together. Lin Feng cursed under his breath. Fuck! As it turned out, it wasn't that the underworld pearl didn't have any underworld true water. On the contrary, there was a huge amount of underworld true water stored inside. However, because Sikong Nan had never been able to refine and control the underworld pearl, the underworld true water was like a scourge to him. He didn't dare to touch it easily, but at this moment, he had been forced into a dead end by Lin Feng. Naturally, he let go of all his worries and simply summoned the underworld true water to take Lin Feng down with him. Lin Feng's expression was ugly. The immovable deity true fire that he controlled was only a small flame. Facing so much underworld true water, it wouldn't even be able to make a single wave before being swallowed. Sikong Nan laughed wildly, and was the first to be swallowed by the surging true water of the yellow springs. Lin Feng could clearly see that the flames surrounding him were all extinguished the moment they came into contact with the true water of the yellow springs. Seeing this, the corners of Lin Feng's eyes twitched. He looked around and urgently tried to think of a solution. Suddenly Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He saw a huge transparent ball of light floating on the surging underworld true water. Within the ball of light sat a skinny young man. It was Wang Lin. That's Wang Lin's divine soul. Lin Feng immediately understood. Without hesitation he jumped onto the ball of light. It was like stepping on a small boat, moving forward with the surging underworld river. This was the only time Lin Feng had the time to observe Wang Lin inside the ball of light. He saw that Wang Lin's eyes were closed and he was unconscious. He didn't react to Lin Feng's arrival at all. Lin Feng's eyes moved. He sat cross-legged on top of the ball of light, right above Wang Lin's head. The two of them were like bunk beds. The ball of light floated with the water. After floating for an unknown distance, a black stone pillar suddenly appeared in the middle of the river. The ball of light hit the black stone pillar, but didn't bounce off. Instead, it stuck tightly to the stone pillar. Lin Feng stared at the black stone pillar and observed it for a while. He reached out and touched the stone pillar. Instantly, a large portion of the incantation flowed into his mind. This is the underworld nirvana technique. This is the incantation to refine the underworld pearl? Lin Feng's heart moved. So that's how it is. After Wang Lin wakes up, he will obtain the underworld nirvana technique here, and comprehend the Tao, technique, and divine abilities contained within the underworld pearl, and then completely refine this treasure. With the underworld pearl in hand, even that old ghost Sikong Nen can't do anything to him. With treasures and incantations, Wang Lin, this hidden dragon, should ascend to the heavens. He'll step onto the golden path that will kill all gods and Buddhas that stand in his way. This was probably the path that Wang Lin should have walked to become the son of heaven. Lin Feng chuckled. Since such a good thing happened to him, he naturally wouldn't hold back. Lin Feng didn't plan on taking away the opportunity that should have belonged to Wang Lin. But he couldn't let Wang Lin comprehend the underworld nirvana technique on his own, and refine the underworld pearl on his own. Letting him, the master, teach him the incantation, and guide him in refining the treasure was the right pace. Thinking about this, Lin Feng smiled and calmed down. He began to seriously comprehend the mysteries of the underworld nirvana technique that came from the black stone pillar. Inside the underworld pearl was a consciousness space that didn't have a physical body. The space was extremely vast. At a place extremely far away from the black stone pillar, a figure suddenly floated up from the raging underworld river. It was Sikong Nan. However, the current Sikong Nan was very different from before. He was no longer shrouded in black fog and ghastly qi. Instead, his entire body had turned into the same dim yellow color as the underworld real water. His body was also translucent. The old ghost's aura had also become the same as the underworld real water. Within the calmness, there was an aura of annihilation and purification. Although I'm not dead, my life is worse than death. I was actually refined by this treasure, the underworld pearl. I can't leave this underworld pearl for the rest of my life. Sikong Nan's face was twisted and full of resentment. However, this is also a blessing in disguise. Not only do I no longer have to fear this underworld real water, I can even control it. Silently, Sikong Nan sensed for a moment. The underworld real water carried his body and rushed towards the direction of the black stone pillar. You two juniors, you're dead for sure this time. Xiao Yan and the other two walked on the road in a hurry, returning to Hengyu Mountain together. Xiao Budian suddenly blinked his eyes and said in a low voice, "Two senior brothers, someone is following us." The huge black sword on Xiao Yan's back suppressed his magic power. It made it difficult for him to even travel, and he didn't have any spare energy to sense his surroundings. Hearing Xiao Budian's words, he controlled the urge to turn his head and look behind him. Quietly, he glanced at Zhu Yi from the corner of his eyes. Zhu Yi also didn't act rashly. Instead, he quietly spread out his magic power to investigate. After a moment, Zhu Yi nodded almost imperceptibly. There is indeed someone. His cultivation is only at the qi refinement stage. He's not that great master just now. Xiao Budian's big black eyes turned. Just now, when we left Chuzhou City, there was a group of people walking towards us. There was an old man among them. I don't know why, but he kept staring at me. Could he be with him? After a moment of silence, Xiao Yan said decisively, "Find a place ahead and get rid of them." Chapter 69. After knowing that they were being followed, Xiao Yan was silent for a moment, then decisively said, "Find a place in front and get rid of them." He was now carrying the huge black sword on his back, so his movement speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. If he allowed the people following them to expose their whereabouts, the enemy's main force would quickly catch up to them. Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi looked at each other and slightly nodded. They were both decisive people, and could not tolerate people with bad intentions following behind them. Having reached a tacit understanding, the three martial brothers no longer talked, and did not deliberately speed up. However, they gradually deviated from their original route, and quietly turned into a dense forest on the side of the road. At this time, the two Yu family cultivators who were following them revealed themselves, and hurriedly chased into the forest. With the huge black sword on his back, Xiao Yan's figure was extremely heavy. Every step he took left a footprint on the ground, so the two Yu family cultivators were not afraid of losing him. One of the taller cultivators muttered as he walked, "Why does young Master Tian want us to follow these three brats? It's a complete waste of time." The shorter cultivator shushed him and said in a low voice, "Whatever young master says, we'll do it. Don't talk so much nonsense." As he said that, the footprints in front of them suddenly disappeared. The two cultivators reacted quickly, and immediately knew that something was wrong, and that they had most likely been exposed. Before they could react further, the dense foliage above their heads rustled. The two of them subconsciously looked up and heard a hoo sound. A huge black sword had already filled their vision. Xiao Yin grabbed the huge black iron sword, and descended from the sky. Holding the sword hilt with both hands, he chopped down with astonishing power. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yin could not nimbly brandish it. The power of the sword was truly astonishing, but the two Yu family cultivators revealed a disdainful smile. The two of them lightly jumped back together, and escaped the attack range of the huge black iron sword. The huge sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yin could not change his direction, and could only watch as the two of them avoided the tip of the sword. However, Xiao Yin did not care, and even had the time to laugh at the two Yu family cultivators. His smile baffled the other two, but in the next moment, their scalps suddenly went numb, and their hair stood on end, as if a disaster was about to befall them. Xiao Budian carried the hammer-like white-bone hammer, and silently appeared behind the short cultivator. With a skill that couldn't be any more skillful, he knocked on the back of the short cultivator's head with a dong sound. The short cultivator let out a blood-curdling scream, as he saw stars in front of his eyes. He struggled to turn around, forcing himself to focus and not lose consciousness. But just as he turned around, before he could see anything clearly, a white shadow flashed before his eyes, and another hammer smashed down on his head. The short cultivator's eyelids rolled, and he no longer had the strength to struggle. He simply lay down on his back and fainted. Xiao Budian's two consecutive strikes were really fast, accurate, and ruthless. He had already practiced it to the point of perfection. Even if Lin Feng was here, he couldn't help but sigh. This kid really had a talent in this promising career of knocking out people. Zhu Yi and the tall cultivator, who were still fighting at the side, also slowed down and looked at Xiao Budian at the same time. Xiao Budian, this extremely cute little boy with red lips and white teeth, looked too out of place when he used such a fierce, violent, and skillful knocking out people. This kid didn't even realize it himself. Instead, he was proud of himself and said to Zhu Yi with a smile, "Second senior brother, this is our sect's secret technique, specially used to capture opponents alive. When Master taught you, you were not even initiated, so you didn't have time to learn it. Later, I will show you again. Once you learn it, you won't have to go through so much trouble next time." Zhu Yi's 10 years of hard work finally broke down at this moment. The corner of his mouth twitched as he shook his head. I don't think I should learn it." Looking at this little guy who had the highest cultivation among his fellow disciples, but was willing to call himself the little junior brother, Zhu Yi actually felt a slight chill on his back. The tall cultivator looked at Xiao Budian, and his eyes were even straighter. Was this still a child who was not even 5 years old? If so, why did he have such a high cultivation? More importantly, why did he have such a thick skin? What kind of sect's secret technique was used to capture opponents alive? It was basically a sneak attack to stun them with a stick. The short cultivator had already fainted. If he woke up and understood the truth of the matter, He would definitely be like the tall cultivator at this moment, with billions of ancient Tyrannosaurus dragons running wildly in his heart. Xiao Yan grasped the huge black iron sword in his hand in distress and said to Zhu Yi, "Second junior brother, don't listen to his nonsense. Master was just joking with him, and this kid took it seriously. Or should I say, he clearly knows that Master was joking, but this move is too much to this brat's liking. So now he is using Master's name to swagger around the city." Xiao Budian laughed happily at the side, while Zhu Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I can't use this thing when fighting with people for a short period of time." Xiao Yan sighed and let go of the huge black iron sword, raising yellow dust on the ground. The next moment, Xiao Yan's figure flashed and disappeared from where he was standing. "Let's attack together and finish this quickly." The tall cultivator was stunned. He saw that Xiao Yan suddenly appeared in front of him, and the cultivation that was previously suppressed by the huge black iron sword completely burst out, punching towards the tall cultivator's face. Awkwardly dodging Xiao Yan's punch, the tall cultivator only felt a chill on his neck, and a long sword was already held against his neck. The long sword was held in Zhu Yi's hand. The green-robed scholar had one hand behind his back, and his expression was indifferent. "It's better if you don't move. We already have a survivor. Whether you leave or not depends on your performance." At the mention of a survivor, looking at the short cultivator who was still unconscious on the ground, Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched a few times, and he unhappily looked at Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian walked over with a smile and asked, "Okay, tell me, why are you following us?" The tall cultivator wanted to open his mouth to talk nonsense, but when he saw Xiao Budian's bright eyes, and then saw Xiao Budian weighing the white bone hammer in his hand, he suddenly felt a chill on the back of his head. He could only bite the bullet and say, "I'm a cultivator from the Yu family. If you're smart, you'd better let us go. Otherwise you'll suffer." The smile on Xiao Budian's face gradually disappeared, and he didn't say anything. Silently, he looked at the tall cultivator. This person never thought that he would be stared at by a 4- or 5-year-old child. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi looked at each other, and Zhu Yi softly said, "Is it sure Tiany's maternal grandfather's family?" Xiao Yan calmly nodded. Zhu Yi turned his head to look at the tall cultivator. "A person who helps the evildoer directly behead him." The tall cultivator's heart went cold, and when he looked at Xiao Budian's expressionless little face, his courage suddenly disappeared. But he was only following orders, and he didn't know why he was following Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian and the other two quickly reacted. After knocking the tall cultivator unconscious, Xiao Yan said in a deep voice, "Did they recognize little junior brother?" Zhu Yi nodded. "It's very likely. Maybe they can't be sure, so they only sent these two to follow, but they must have some suspicions." Xiao Budian lowered his head. "I'm a burden to you guys." Xiao Yan waved his hand and said indifferently, "What are you talking about? We're fellow disciples. There's nothing to be a burden about." He looked at the black iron sword on the ground and scratched his head in distress. "If you're talking about a burden, it's me who's a burden to you guys. Is there any way to take this thing and walk faster without leaving any traces?" Xiao Yan frowned. "The three of us spent all our money on this thing. It's a pity to throw it away." Hearing this, Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also frowned. Chapter 70. In the mountain stream, a bamboo raft floated down. On the bamboo raft sat a green-robed scholar and a 4- or 5-year-old child. The two sat on the bamboo raft. Other than controlling the direction of the bamboo raft, not only did they not speed up, they were controlling the bamboo raft to not drift too fast with the current. A few bubbles suddenly appeared in the water beside the bamboo raft. Then, a black-clothed youth dashed out of the water, lightly landed on the bamboo raft, and greedily breathed in the fresh air. "If only I had Master's black cloud flag, then I wouldn't have to use so much effort." The black-clothed youth was naturally Xiao Yan. The magic power in his body revolved, and steam rose from his body, instantly evaporating his clothes. Zhu Yi said, "There's no point in saying that now. Although this method is still very slow, at least we won't expose our whereabouts." The little guy jumped up from the raft and smiled. "It's my turn." He dived into the water and dived to the bottom. Xiao Yan's huge black iron sword sank into the sand and stones at the bottom of the water, dragging a perfectly straight line at the bottom of the water. The little guy grabbed the huge black iron sword. The weight was secondary. The key was that his magic power had become stagnant. He thought, eldest senior brother's item is really strange. Although it's a burden, it's a pity to throw it away. I should bring it back to master to take a look. Then, the little guy hung the huge black iron sword at the bottom of the water and dragged it between the sand and stones. He raised his head to look at the bamboo raft above his head to determine his direction. On the bamboo raft, Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. I'm throwing my life away for money, right? Zhu Yi smiled slightly. Master often says there are always more solutions than difficulties. Although it's simple, it's very reasonable. The three of them stared blankly in the forest for a long time. Finally, they thought of a method that wasn't really a solution. They used the waterway to hide their tracks. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy. The small boat and the bamboo raft couldn't carry it at all, so they could only take turns to drag it underwater. Just a dozen li behind the three of them, a group of people was chasing along the stream. The leading young man was Yu Tian, a direct descendant of the Yu family. He was handsome, but his face was extremely gloomy. This mountain stream has countless branches. If we keep chasing like this, it's very easy to go the wrong way. He turned and walked to the back of the group. There was a simple black-clothed old man resting with his eyes closed. He was being carried by a few Yu family servants. Yu Tian respectfully saluted. Elder Yu, please make a move. This is very important to the family. The eyelids of the black-clothed old man, who was called Elder Yu, did not even twitch as he said indifferently, I'm only responsible for protecting your safety. I don't care about anything else. Yu Tian frowned slightly, but did not dare to persuade him any further. He could only retreat to the side thinking, why did the clan send this old monster over so unlucky? He didn't dare to say these words out loud. Instead, he looked at Yuelao with a fearful expression, then hurriedly lowered his head and turned to leave. The black-robed old man did not exude any aura of dermic powers. However, as he sat there with his eyes closed, he was like an immovable mountain. The bamboo raft turned around a bend in the river, and their field of vision widened. Zhu Yi stood at the front of the bamboo raft and gazed into the distance. Next we have to return to land or else the direction will become more and more off. Xiao Yan nodded his head and used his mana to send a message to Xiao Budian. Then he jumped onto the shore with Zhu Yi. Xiao Budian also dragged the huge black iron sword out of the water, returning the huge black iron sword to Xiao Yan. He walked while recovering his mana. Zhu Yi asked, there are pursuers behind us. Do we still return to Hengyu Mountain and wait, or do we directly go find Master? Xiao Yan pondered. Before he had time to reply, an aged voice suddenly sounded. Young Master Yi has already taken someone else as master? This is really not good. The Marquis once said that before young Master Yi learns the scriptures well, you can't practice martial arts. The expressions of Zhu Yi and his fellow apprentices changed at the same time. Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched, calmly calling out, Mr. Tao Heir. The person who came is a wizened and skinny old man. He is precisely the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, Mr. Tao Heir. Following the appearance of Mr. Tao Heir, more and more cultivators of the house of the Marquis walked out from the forest behind him. Tao Heir carefully sized up Zhu Yi, revealing an expression of admiration. Not even half a year and you've reached Qi Disciple level 6. Young Master Yi has such great talent. No wonder the blood of the Marquis flows in your veins. But you disobeyed the orders of the Marquis. This is not good. Zhu Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Father's cultivation is high. That is his ability. My cultivation today came from my own hard work and my master's teachings. Tao Heir shook his head. Young Master Yi doesn't understand. The Marquis is a just person and has 1,000 merits. His arrangements are definitely correct. You only need to follow the path the Marquis has arranged for you. Hearing this, not only Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian also frowned. Tao Heir didn't care at all, continuing to slowly say, the reason I came out this time, one is to investigate the disappearance of Huang San. The other is to find young Master Yi. Zhu Yi calmly said, Huang San and the others died at the hands of the Golden Elixir period cultivator Liu Yang of the Mount Shu Sword sect. I saw it with my own eyes. Mount Shu Sword sect. Tao Er nodded his head, then asked. Then young Master Yi, how did you escape? Where are those traitors of the Society of the Strong Gale? Zhu Yi answered. The people of the Society of the Strong Gale escaped through the teleportation formation. My master saved me. After that I've been learning the Tao from my master. Tao Er made a sound of N. Since that's the case, then we can only leave it at that for now. Young Master Yi, you can follow me home right now. You've been away from home for so many days. The Marquis and the Madam both miss you a lot. Silently Zhu Yi said. I want to learn the Tao from my master. In the future when I'm successful I'll naturally go back. Tao Er smiled. Young Master, you must be joking. Even though you're not the Marquis's legitimate son, and can't learn the Marquis's great Tao. But the Marquis will naturally arrange a suitable master for you. There's no need for you to find a master yourself. So young Master, you follow me back to Tianjing right now. Tao Er said as a matter of fact. If you're worried that your master won't be clear, then I'll help you talk to him. If he really is a great master, then he'll definitely understand reason. How can he bear to separate his disciple from his parents? Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian's expressions changed slightly. Just as they were about to move, they were stopped by Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi looked up at Tao Er and calmly said, Master has saved my life and taught me, a teacher for a day, a teacher for a lifetime. I appreciate Mr. Tao Er's kindness. Please report back to my father. One day I will definitely return to Tianjing, but not now. Tao Er fixed his eyes on Zhu Yi and sighed. Young Master Yi is usually the most filial, but now you've been led down the evil path. It's clear that your master is definitely an evil person. May I ask young Master Yi to tell me where he is now? This old servant has gotten rid of this evil person. Such an evil person should be crippled of his cultivation, drowned in a cesspit, and paraded through the streets to warn the world. Not only Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian were angry, even Zhu Yi's face darkened, but Tao Er continued to say, Also, before I left, the Marquis instructed that if I find young Master Yi, I must bring young Master Yi back safely. The Marquis's orders must be completed. As he spoke, the group of cultivators from the house of the Marquis of Xuanji behind him had already spread out, surrounding Zhu Yi and the other two in the middle. The hearts of Zhu Yi and the other two instantly sunk to the bottom. Within the underworld pearl, at the center of the river, Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, still has not awakened. Lin Feng silently sat on the ball of light, his mind still seriously trying to figure out the underworld nirvana technique scripture on the black stone pillar. In the distance, the underworld true water suddenly made a crashing sound. The surging underworld true water carried a figure that was rapidly approaching. The figure was precisely Sikong Nan. When he saw Lin Feng, he instantly laughed loudly. Junior, the humiliation you gave me before, I will now return it to you 100-fold. Chapter 71. Sikong Nan waved his hands, and the surging Yellow Springs true water whizzed towards Lin Feng, turning into a monstrous wave and crashing down. Lin Feng was at a critical moment in his comprehension of the Yellow Springs Nirvana technique. Sikong Nan's sudden interruption made Lin Feng extremely annoyed. 24 relics floated above Lin Feng's head. The surging Buddhist light, turning into a golden cloud that supported the Yellow Springs true water falling from the sky. The magic power cultivated from Buddhism was the thickest and most condensed. Even the Yellow Springs true water could not dissolve it in a short time. But the golden cloud was still melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. It would not last much longer. Sikong Nan sneered at Lin Feng. Let me see how long you can last. As he spoke, he urged the Yellow Springs true water to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng furrowed his brows, communicating with the baby Taotai Tunten in his ring. I don't want it. Tunten shrieked, shaking its head like a drum as it shouted in exasperation. You're too bad. You want me to drink the Yellow Springs true water? Lin Feng chuckled. It doesn't matter if you refuse, but I have to make it clear to you first. Other than this thing, there's nothing else I can give you to eat in a short time. If you don't want it, you can go hungry. Tunten hesitated. Lin Feng saw her expression and asked, You've drunk the Yellow Springs true water before? Yes, it tasted very good. Tunton hesitated for a moment before saying. But my head felt dizzy after drinking it, and I couldn't remember many things in the past. Lin Feng clicked his tongue. The Taotai was indeed one of the 4 ancient ferocious beasts. It could swallow the heavens and the earth, and was not even afraid of the tyrannical Yellow Spring's true water. It only lost some memories, and its magic power was not purified. What are you afraid of? Everything is good if it tastes good. Food is delicious. Lin Feng kept persuading. Tunton's expression grew more and more conflicted. She knew that Lin Feng did not have good intentions, but her gluttonous instincts could not be restrained. For a Taotai, eating was an instinctive reaction on the same level as survival. I don't care anymore. I'll eat my fill first. I'm going to starve to death for more than half a year. Finally, the little loli shouted in annoyance. Her body had already changed back into the original form of Taotai. Lin Feng tossed the ring into the air and removed the heaven cage sigil within it. A huge suction force immediately came from the ring and swallowed the Yellow Spring's true water like a black hole. While the Buddhist light and the ring blocked the river water, Lin Feng seized the opportunity to comprehend the netherworld nirvana technique. While he was trying to figure out the Tao, he was also trying to communicate with the netherworld water. Just like how the art of Akala cultivated the rage of the Akala, the art of Yellow Springs cultivated the art of Yellow Springs cultivated the true water of the Yellow Springs. Comparing the two, combining theory with practice, many of the questions that had been bothering Lin Feng were suddenly cleared up. In his mind, it was as if there was a long river surging past. The river water flowed endlessly, like time itself, unstoppable and unstoppable. Silently, Lin Feng looked at his own reflection in the river water. The reflection was not his fixed appearance, but constantly changing into all kinds of images. There was a beautiful newlywed girl. There was an old man with 1 foot in the grave. There was a Buddhist monk chanting Buddhist scriptures. There was a thief who licked blood on the edge of a blade. There was a handsome and elegant young man. One after another, small fragments, thousands of reincarnations. A layer of understanding rose in Lin Feng's mind. This is my previous life, the life before that, the countless reincarnations of my previous life. The Yellow Springs reincarnation, nirvana rebirth. All living things walk towards death and decay here, and then be reborn. Mysterious life and death reincarnation. The path of nirvana resounded in Lin Feng's mind, ultimately fusing into one. Even the magic power in his body formed a line, as if there was a Yellow Springs river flowing silently in the netherworld. Lin Feng opened his eyes, looking at the surging true water of the Yellow Springs in front of him, a faint smile appearing on his face. Seeing his smile, Sikong Nan's heart trembled for no reason, as if a great disaster was about to befall him. The cross-legged sitting Lin Feng suddenly stood up, retrieving Tunton's ring. The Buddha light and golden cloud above his head rose into the air, no longer blocking the true water of the Yellow Springs, allowing the endless river water to fall on his body. Sikong Nan's eyes widened. He was shocked to find that the true water of the Yellow Springs had fallen on Lin Feng's body, but Lin Feng was unharmed. Not a single drop of the true water of the Yellow Springs touched his body. Instead, it fell docilely at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up. The true water of the Yellow Springs that purified and killed all living things in the world was now like a docile servant, obediently kneeling at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up like a king. At this moment, the Buddha light above Lin Feng's head shone eternally, and the Yellow Springs river flowed endlessly under his feet. With the heavens above his head, and the Yellow Springs under his feet, Sikong Nan blankly stared at this scene. How is this possible? Lin Feng smiled. Why is it impossible? He swept a glance at Sikong Nan and said with a smile, "Come down." With this order, the true water of the Yellow Springs that lifted Sikong Nan's body suddenly fell. Being caught off guard, Sikong Nan fell directly into the raging Yellow Springs river. Sikong Nan was shocked. Having been completely refined by the Yellow Springs pearl, all of his arcane energy had fused with the true water of the Yellow Springs. He could no longer use his skills and techniques. If he couldn't control the true water of the Yellow Springs, he would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, The true water of the yellow springs had no reaction. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He only looked at Sikong Nan with a faint smile. At this moment, Sikong Nan felt as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water over him. He felt a chill from head to toe, and despair rose in his heart. He roared like a trapped beast. Even so, you can't do anything to me. I've become one with the Yellow Springs Pearl. Unless you destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl, you can't kill me. With your cultivation, you can't destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl. Who said I want to destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl? To destroy such a treasure so easily, isn't that a reckless waste of God's gifts? Lin Feng chuckled and shook his head. Plus, who told you that I can only kill you if I destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl? Sikong Nan was stunned. He had a bad feeling. In the next moment, he suddenly felt the true water of the yellow springs around him become thicker and thicker. It was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. The originally murky yellow water slowly turned black. The black true water of the yellow springs kept invading Sikong Nan's soul. Sikong Nan felt like he was drowning. Lin Feng said leisurely, "You don't know, right? The Yellow Springs Nirvana technique has given birth to a technique called the Netherworld Puppet Manipulation. It can use the true water of the yellow springs to refine people into puppets. This puppet is different from your 100 ghosts walk in the night. You refine people into malicious spirits, and only retain their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive. However, their memories and intelligence are wiped away, leaving only resentment and murderous intent. Although it's easy to control, it's still inferior." Lin Feng chuckled and said, "My Netherworld puppet manipulation technique can refine people into puppets. Not only can they retain their memories from when they were alive, but they will also retain their self-awareness." Retaining their memories from when they were alive meant that the puppet not only had their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive, but their techniques would also be preserved. They would also have the rich battle experience of a cultivator when they were alive. Retaining their self-awareness meant that they had intelligence, could think, and could adapt flexibly. Sikong Nan's heart grew colder and colder. Lin Feng looked at him and smiled. "Simply put, you're the same as before you were turned into a puppet, except for one thing. That is, you will unconditionally obey any order I give you." Sikong Nan roared in despair. His originally murky yellow, almost transparent soul was completely dyed black by the true water of the yellow springs. Then, it was swallowed by the raging river, and sealed at the bottom of the river. After suppressing Sikong Nan, Lin Feng's mind finally relaxed. His heart slightly moved, and he looked down at the ball of light under his feet. In the ball of light, Wang Lin's soul moved and finally woke up. He opened his eyes with a blank expression. Chapter 72. Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, finally woke up. He looked around and saw Sikong Nan roaring in despair as he was swallowed by the yellow springs water. Thinking back to when Sikong Nan wanted to kill him, Wang Lin was slightly shocked. He raised his head and saw a young man wearing a white robe and a crown made of feathers and stars smiling at him. The young Taoist in the white robe had a golden cloud above his head, and the yellow springs flowed endlessly under his feet. He looked like an immortal, making Wang Lin feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Wang Lin slowly remembered the last scene he saw before he fainted. It was this immortal descending from the sky, forcing Sikong Nan to retreat and saving him. Now it seemed that Sikong Nan had been killed and he was saved. Wang Lin hurriedly said, "I was rude earlier and let down Immortal Master's good intentions. Now that Immortal Master has saved me, I am ashamed." Lin Feng thought to himself, "It's good that you know." But on the surface he only smiled faintly. "Silly boy, it's good that you are fine. It's just a small matter, it's nothing to me." Wang Lin paused, his face showing an awkward expression. He wanted to say something, but he was too embarrassed to do so. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking and smiled. "Are you still willing to be my disciple?" Wang Lin knelt on the ground. "I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and disrespected Immortal Master. I am grateful that Immortal Master didn't abandon me and even saved my life. I am willing to be Immortal Master's disciple and listen to your orders. Please accept me." Lin Feng looked up to the sky and sighed. He was actually more excited than Wang Lin. Finally, At this moment, Lin Feng even had the urge to cry. There were actually only 5 days left from the 1-year mission deadline. If he dragged on for another 5 days and couldn't complete the mission, then with the system's annoying nature, it definitely wouldn't go easy on him. It would definitely kill him if it said so. The system notifications kept ringing in his ears. It was like the sound of an immortal, unprecedentedly beautiful. Congratulations to the host for accepting the 4th disciple, Wang Lin. The host has received 1 lucky draw ticket and 500 exchange points. Congratulations to the host for completing the first main mission. Special reward for main mission released. Lin Feng really wanted to take a look at his mission reward first, but Wang Lin was still eagerly looking at him in front of him. Lin Feng could only forcefully suppress his excitement, saying with an indifferent expression, "This underworld pearl is a rare treasure. Keep it for yourself and study the mysteries within." Wang Lin's mouth moved, but he didn't make a sound. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking when he saw this. He smiled and said, "This treasure is good, but I don't care about it. This is your own opportunity, treasure it. You also have 3 martial brothers. Once you meet them, you will understand that although I will impart all of my knowledge to you, how far you can go on this path of cultivation in the future will still depend on your own efforts." Wang Lin thought, "That Sikong Nan is so evil, but Master can easily kill him. Master doesn't care about the treasure that I value as much as my life. Although I don't know what Master's cultivation is, it must be very high. Cultivating with Master is better than being a servant in the Hengyu sect." With that thought, Wang Lin's heart was burning. "Dad, Mom, I will definitely work hard. I will definitely become an immortal." Lin Feng was currently looking at the system's information on Wang Lin. Name, Wang Lineage, 15 years and 6 months. Current cultivation, guiding Qi into the body, about to reach Qi Disciple Level 1. Potential attribute, Root Bone 5, Comprehension 10, Will 10, Luck 8. Recommended education plan. Recommended to cultivate water-type Dao techniques, or demonic Dao techniques. Recommended to focus on spells, as the main direction of development. Note, root bone talent is low, so it will be difficult to cultivate in the early stages. However, it will not be easy to reach a bottleneck when advancing to the next stage. Right now Lin Feng has 2 water Dao techniques on hand. One is the Blue Ocean River technique, and the other is the Underworld Nirvana technique. The latter is much stronger than the former, and it should have originally belonged to Wang Lin's fortuitous encounter. With the assistance of the Underworld Pearl, it should be able to help Wang Lin pass through the difficult early stages of cultivation as quickly as possible. After teaching Wang Lin the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, Wang Lin completely refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Inside the Yellow Springs Pearl, he was the absolute master. Even Lin Feng could only protect himself. However, Wang Lin did not look proud at all. He understood that this was all an arrangement made by Lin Feng to nurture him. Although Wang Lin seemed quiet, he valued kindness, friendship, and enmity very much. Today, Lin Feng saved his life, took him in as a disciple, and gave him a fateful encounter. He firmly remembered this kindness in his heart. Wang Lin refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Under Lin Feng's guidance, his spirit left the Yellow Springs Pearl and returned to his physical body. At this time, Lin Feng completely retracted his spirit from the Yellow Springs Pearl. He looked at Wang Lin and nodded in satisfaction. He had gained a lot this time. He had taken Wang Lin, the son of heaven, as his disciple, cultivated a top-grade Dao technique like the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, mastered the spell Netherworld puppet manipulation, and refined an old devil into a puppet. However, although the Netherworld puppet manipulation was good, it had its flaws. For example, it could only be refined when the other party's physical body was destroyed, and only the spirit was left. Moreover, after refining the Netherworld puppet manipulation, the puppet was actually equivalent to a dead person. Its cultivation was fixed when it was alive, and could not continue to improve. In addition, if the difference in cultivation between the caster and the other party was too great, it could not be refined. Instead, it could backfire. However, what made Lin Feng the happiest was the system reward after completing the mission. Apart from taking in Wang Lin as his disciple, and receiving the usual lucky draw chance and 500 exchange points. There was also a special prize for completing the main mission. The special prize was a mysterious box with a question mark on it. However, Lin Feng noticed that there was a difference between this and the mysterious box in his lucky draw system. In the lucky draw system, the mysterious box that was the grand prize was black. However, this main mission reward box in front of him was silver. It looked much more advanced. Lin Feng did not hesitate to open the box. After taking a look, his eyes immediately popped out, and he could not pull them out of the box. This thing hiss. Lin Feng came back to his senses after a long time. He took a deep breath, and felt that his brain was not enough. Master. Wang Lin saw that his master seemed to be thinking about something. He did not want to disturb him, but he was afraid of delaying his master's business. Lin Feng woke up and turned to look at Wang Lin. What's the matter? Wang Lin held a sparkling crystal in his hand. I can see that this crystal has been flashing non-stop. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. That was a sound transmission crystal. Could it be that something happened to the three of them? He crushed the crystal, and Zhu Yi's voice came from inside. Master, we met people from the Yu family. They might have recognized junior brother. We are trying our best to get rid of them. Eldest senior brother was worried that we would disturb master's seclusion, so he did not inform you. However, this disciple was afraid that something might happen, so I specially reported it to master. Lin Feng took a deep breath and raised his hand to put away the black cloud flag that enveloped the valley. Then he gently waved the flag. As the black light flowed, he and Wang Lin were swept up together. Let's go. Chapter 73. Tao Er stood in the same place without moving, while a group of cultivators from the house of the Marquis surrounded him. The three Zhui brothers stood side by side. Zhui smiled bitterly. Now it seems that I have dragged you guys down first. Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian both smiled without a care. Tao Er, who had not moved, suddenly raised his eyelids. His originally muddy old eyes suddenly burst with divine light. It's actually a Buddhist remnant? Tao Er's eyes were like lightning, looking into the depths of the forest. A gray-clothed man wearing a conical bamboo hat slowly walked out from the mountain forest. Taking off the bamboo hat, a shiny bald head was revealed. Xiao Yan and the other two were dumbfounded when they saw him. The person who came was precisely the gray-clothed monk who stopped them in the Chuzhou market. The three brothers looked at each other, feeling ashamed. No matter how stupid they were, they now understood that this monk had been following them. The gray-clothed monk put his palms together. This monk is the Great Thunder Sound Temple's Hui Kong. Mr. Tao Er greets you. Tao Er laughed. You know that I am here, yet you still dare to show yourself? Hui Kong calmly said. I want to get back the relic of my sect's elders. Even if there is a mountain of knives, a sea of fire, or hell in front of me, I will still move forward without fear. Tao Er stopped smiling and nodded. In that case, you should quickly enter the cycle of reincarnation and follow your sect's elders. With that, Tao Er raised his fist. The mana in his body surged, forming a mighty Vajra shadow in the air. The Vajra stared angrily at Hui Kong. A strong spiritual pressure spread across the whole area. Zhu Yi and the other two were not his targets, but facing Tao Er at this moment, they felt that their bodies could not move. This skinny old man's tyrannical strength was completely revealed in this one move. His skinny body exploded with infinite power. Zhu Yi thought. No wonder Huang San would be so respectful in front of him. It is not because of respect, but because of fear of Tao Er's power that is above his. Dragon Elephant Vajra Fist. Hui Kong's eyes suddenly widened. Anger appeared in his eyes for the first time, because the martial divine ability Tao Er executed was shockingly the guardian divine ability of the Great Thunderclap Monastery that shook the world all those years ago. Tao Er leisurely smiled. That's right, it is the Dragon Elephant Vajra Fist. In the past, the Marquis led an army to annihilate your Great Lane Temple and collected your Dao techniques and supernatural powers as spoils of war, bestowing them to all the soldiers who participated in the battle. This old man is untalented and only managed to obtain this fist manual of the Dragon Elephant Vajra Punch. However, after several decades of hard work, I finally have some insights. You seem very dissatisfied. The monks of the Great Lane Temple have bewitched the hearts of the people and harmed the country, so they should be exterminated. However, your Tao skills and supernatural powers should not be destroyed just like that. Someone more suitable should learn and use them. But your Vajra heir said, the monks of the Vajra should be killed. Huikong fixed his gaze on Tao heir and took a deep breath. I'll get rid of you today. In the future, I'll definitely get even with that evil Zhu Hongwu. Finishing, he put his palms together. The boundless golden light of Buddha illuminated the forest for tens of miles. Within the golden light, a majestic and ferocious aura exploded. The silhouette of a rock could be faintly seen flashing within. Its wings spread open, and it set off a strong gale. Blowing everyone around, and countless ancient trees into the sky were blown down by the strong wind. Golden Pung Blade. Huikong chanted the name of Buddha. The rock in the Buddha's light flapped its wings, and tens of thousands of light blades shot towards Tao air like a storm, like a golden rain of light covering the entire mountain range. Xiao Yan and Xiao Budian looked at each other, saying in a low voice, even stronger than that monk who used the Saraira. Xiao Budian grunted. Same as that old man from the Blaze Sword sect. They are both golden elixir period cultivators. Facing the torrential golden light rain, Tao air was not flustered at all. Facing the rain of light, he threw out a punch, using the might of transforming into Vajra and suppressing evil to meet the attack head-on. This extremely strong punch seemed like it was going to completely shatter the space where Huikong was. The rain of light landed on Tao air's body, continuously exploding. But it was as if Tao air had transformed into Vajra, crossing the sea of bitterness, unmoving like a mountain, striking towards Huikong with an indomitable will. In the eyes of everyone, Huikong seemed to have become a demon clown, as if his body was going to be destroyed by this punch and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Huikong's expression slightly changed. He knew that he was not Tao air's opponent. This Tao air, as a golden elixir period cultivator, completely gave up on spells and instead trained his martial arts to the limit of his current realm. Spells and martial arts are both magical abilities. Martial arts are not as rich and varied as spells, but when trained to a certain level, it also has the great power to move mountains and move seas. Close combat is even stronger. Huikong took a deep breath. The rock in the golden light merged into one with his body, and then turned into a stream of light, instantly escaping thousands of miles away, directly leaving Tao air's attack range. Tao air sighed. Great Pung wind riding technique? I won't be able to kill you today. Huikong left as soon as he said he would, without any hesitation. His Great Pung wind riding technique was the Great Lane Temple's strongest escape technique, able to travel thousands of miles in an instant. Although Tao air's cultivation was higher than his, he could not catch up to him. Xiao Budian and the other two's faces were bitter. They originally thought that they would have a chance to escape after both sides were injured, but they never thought that the outcome would be decided so quickly. Although Huikong hated Tao air, once he determined that he was not his opponent, he immediately escaped. He had no intention of fighting to the death. It was just that like this, the three of them had suffered. After chasing Huikong away, Tao air turned his head and smiled. All right, young Master Yi, please bring this old servant to find the demon that bewitched you. Once you kill him, this old servant will bring you back to Tianjing to report to the Marquis. Xiao Yan and the other two's faces slightly changed. If they could, they would immediately bring Tao air to see their master, and then let their master beat Tao air until his teeth fell all over the ground. However, their master was currently in closed-door training. If they brought Tao air over and disturbed their master, then it would be terrible. The three of them had the same thought. They all clenched their teeth and did not speak. Tao air was just about to say something when he suddenly frowned. Why are there so many idlers today? Mr. Tao air's words aren't right. To be honest, this is the land of my great Qin dynasty. Everyone who has come from afar is the true guest. A group of people walked out of the forest. The person leading them was precisely the direct descendant of the Yu family, Yu Tian. Feeling the ripples of magic power from Tao air and Huikong's actions, the Yu family immediately rushed over with a target. Tao air did not pay attention to Yu Tian, his gaze landing on the simple-faced Yuelao who was being carried at the back of the group. Is it the giant spirit gate's Taoist master Shan Yu? At this time, Yuelao also did not close his eyes to rest. He stood up, looked at Tao Air and slightly nodded. Mr. Tao Air of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji? This old man greets you. Tao Air said, I don't dare. Only then did his gaze turn towards Yu Tian. I wonder what young master you came here for? Yu Tian's gaze landed on Xiao Budian, asking the old man beside him. Are you sure it's this little demon? The old man nodded his head with certainty. I came today for this little demon, Yu Tian said. I wonder what Mr. Tao Air's target is. Tao Air looked at Zhu Yi and directly said, I came here to find my family's young master Yi. I don't need the others, you can take them all away. But I have to first ask where their master is and get rid of that person. Yu Tian stared at Xiao Budian. A hint of ruthlessness flashed past his gaze. Oh, he even has a master? Then he indeed needs to be eliminated. Mr. Air, do you know where that person is? Tao Air shook his head. This time his gaze landed on Xiao Yin who he did not pay much attention to. Young Master Yi, I naturally can't force you. That child is yours, I don't care either. This black-clothed brat has no use. Just pry open his mouth and interrogate him. Chapter 74. Tao Air looked at Xiao Yan and lightly said, This black-clothed kid is useless. We'll pry open his mouth and interrogate him. Hearing this, Yu Tian looked at Xiao Yan and smiled maliciously. Not bad, that's exactly what I wanted. He waved his hand, and a few Yu family cultivators surrounded Xiao Yan to capture him. Xiao Yan coldly looked at this scene. At this time he suddenly opened his mouth and said, I say, aren't you guys planning too well? His palm let go of the huge black iron sword. The huge sword smashed onto the ground with a loud bang, dust flying up. His two hands reached forward and magic power gathered in his palms, condensing into two flames. The flames burned fiercely and in the next moment, they were compressed again and again, until they became two dark red balls of light. Seeing these balls of light, Tao Air and Yu Tian's expression slightly changed. Red Lotus Break, Taishu Temple? Xiao Yan's expression was cold as he pushed his hands forward, and the two balls of light flew towards the incoming Yu family cultivators. Boom! Boom! Two huge flames burst out in an instant, and before the two Yu clan cultivators could react, their bodies had already exploded into a mist of blood. The roaring flames instantly swallowed the flesh and blood, turning them into ashes without leaving a single residue. Two huge deep pits were blown up on the ground, and the entire cliff looked like it was going to be torn apart. The others stared dumbfoundedly at the tragic scene in front of them. Although they were all people who killed indiscriminately, and their hands were covered in blood, seeing their companions explode into nothingness by Xiao Yan's Red Lotus, everyone felt a chill. Tao Air's eyes flashed. Take them down. I want them alive and ask them about their origins. The cultivators beside him also surrounded them. As Xiao Yin made his move, Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also rushed forward. Using the cover of Xiao Yan's Red Lotus break flames, they instantly charged into the enemy's formation. Thunder surged out from the two of them, and for a moment, lightning flashed, dyeing everyone's line of sight blue and purple. In the next moment, two gigantic lightning blades appeared out of thin air and intersected with each other, forming a cross. They streaked through the air, like a sickle used to mow grass. Wild Thunder Blade. Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi, who both trained in the Nine Heavens Thunder technique, used the Wild Thunder Lightning Blade that Lin Feng taught them together. The Berserk Thunder Lightning Blade directly cut all the obstacles in front of them into pieces, crazily reaping lives. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. Zhu Yi shouted in a low voice, and unsheathed the long sword at his waist. Xiao Yan and the little guy also made the same movements. The directionless flying sword Dao, and the Cloud Dragon escape technique, were displayed to the fullest by the three of them. They turned into three long rainbows and flew into the sky together. The three brothers were not stupid enough to go against Tao Air, who was considered strong during the Golden Elixir period. Yu Tian also didn't expect that these three brats, who looked like they were only at the Qi disciple stage, would actually be so ferocious. Their mana was vigorous, and their divine abilities were amazing. In a moment, they actually killed his underlings and caused them to be thrown off their feet. Seeing that they were all rushing towards him, Yu Tian was so angry that he laughed instead. Good timing. He formed a seal with both hands, and a crystal bottle flew out from his sleeve. At first, it was only the size of a human's thumb, but as it moved with the wind, it grew to 12 meters tall in an instant, and the mouth of the bottle had a diameter of 3 meters. A powerful suction force emerged from the mouth of the crystal bottle, attempting to suck in Xiao Yan and the others. Xiao Yan shouted loudly, "Duo!" He also activated the Thundershock staff. For a moment, Buddhist light shone brightly, directly blocking the suction of the crystal bottle. But with this delay, the offensive of Xiao Yan's group was also disintegrated. Yu Tian sneered, and the Yu clan's direct lineage Dao technique, the dark art, was activated. The aura of magic power, that was as vast as the ocean, immediately pressed down on Xiao Yan's group, making it difficult for them to breathe. Seeing this, Tao Er praised. Young Master Yu is indeed worthy of being a direct descendant of the clan. Heavily nurtured, he has already established his Dao foundation at such a young age. Yu Tian's cultivation was too high compared to Xiao Budian's group. Fighting 1 against 3 was still easy. The vast white cold air practically formed a cover, enveloping the 3 of them. Within the range of the cold air, not only did Xiao Yan's group feel that their magic power circulation became sluggish, even their bodies were about to be frozen. Xiao Yan clenched his teeth. "Let's go all out." He threw away the long sword in his hand, and suddenly bent over to pick up that heavy and cumbersome black iron greatsword. "If you and I are really fated to meet today, then help me get through this crisis." Xiao Yan clenched his teeth, and his mind completely merged into the black iron greatsword. Rumble! As soon as he entered, Xiao Yan immediately knew that he had poked a hornet's nest. As if a tyrant that had always been in deep slumber was suddenly roused by someone, and let out the most terrifying roar. In Xiao Yan's mind, there were only flames, purple flames, endless flames. The flames that were like a vast ocean dyed the entire space a terrifying and evil purple. Tao Er suddenly opened his eyes wide, and the expression of Yuelao, who originally looked like he was half dead, also became a bit more serious. Within the dense white mist of cold air, Xiao Yan's pained and manic howl came out. In the next moment, a deep purple 10-meter long, and as wide as a door, flaming greatsword soared into the sky, piercing through the cold mist. Xiao Yan roared angrily, and with a flaming greatsword in his hand, he raised it high above his head and pointed it towards the sky. His aura was so ferocious that it was as if he had descended into the mortal world, and was a flame god that could cleanse all evil. All of his enemies would be burnt to ashes. Yu Tian was dumbstruck, and stared blankly as Xiao Yan's sword tore through the vast cold mist, and slashed towards him. The rapidly expanding flames streaked across the sky, and almost tore the atmosphere apart, leaving behind a dark purple mark in the air that didn't disperse for a long time. This sword could exterminate all enemies below the golden elixir rank. Yuelao couldn't sit by idly anymore, and coldly snorted. Waves of light flickered in front of Yu Tian, and suddenly, a black stone god mountain appeared. It was simple, heavy, vigorous, and indestructible. Xiao Yan's cultivation was too far apart from his, and the flaming greatsword was blocked by the black stone god mountain. Although the black stone god mountain kept shaking from the impact, it was ultimately unable to break through Yuelao's magic defense. The flaming greatsword exploded with a loud bang, and the flames that burst out turned into flying flames that filled the sky, causing the surrounding qi condensation and foundation establishment cultivators to cover their heads and flee like rats. Yuelao let out a long breath. Good fellow. However, he didn't show any mercy. With a hand seal, the black stone god mountain flew into the sky and pressed down towards Xiao Yan's head. Xiao Yan looked at this scene unwillingly, but he had no more strength to make a move. The black iron greatsword fell heavily onto the ground, and all of the magic power in his body was exhausted. He couldn't even move his little finger. Give me that sword of yours too. Yuelao's voice rang out beside his ear. Xiao Yan wanted to resist, but the black stone god mountain directly pressed him onto the ground, and the black iron greatsword was already snatched away by someone. Yuelao waved the black iron greatsword. It's indeed not an ordinary item, but it's not something you deserve. As he spoke, the magic power in his hand increased, and the black stone god mountain shrunk to the size of a millstone. However, its weight increased instead, pressing down on Xiao Yan until he couldn't move at all. Speak, where is that master of yours? Xiao Yan lay on the ground, clenching his teeth and not saying a word. All of the bones in his body were creaking, and the bones in his entire body were about to be crushed by Yuelao's magic. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian cried out in alarm. Eldest senior brother. All of you silence. Xiao Yan growled, and blood faintly seeped out of his orifices. He struggled to turn his head to look at Yuelao, Yu Tian and Tao Er. Don't worry, old ghosts. One day, my master will come and settle the score with you guys, and cut off your dog heads. Tao Er walked up from the side, his face expressionless. That day won't come. The result will be me killing him. Too bad you're destined to not be able to see that spectacular scene. Yu Tian, who was still in shock, finally came back to his senses. He stared at Xiao Yan with a gloomy expression. He never would have thought that he was almost killed by a Qi disciple level 9 brat. At this moment, he was a bit angry out of humiliation. Yuelao, break all of the bones in this little bastard's body. He stared at Xiao Yan and smiled cruelly. You're very loyal to your master, but is it useful? A master who can't even protect his own disciple. What's the use of having him? He's nothing but a good-for-nothing. Xiao Yan growled in a low voice. Bullshit. Yuelao continuously increased his strength. The sound of bones breaking was already coming from Xiao Yan's body. It was so painful that he broke out in cold sweat. Yuelao coldly said, I'll give you one more chance. Tell me where your master is, and I'll give you a quick death. In your dreams. Xiao Yan said word by word, using all of his strength. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian wanted to charge up, but were separately surrounded by the cultivators of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji and the Yu family. They were outnumbered and were about to be captured alive. Tao Er looked at Zhu Yi and slowly said, Young Master Yi, did you see that? Maybe that sorcerer is nearby right now, watching his disciple suffer, but not daring to come out and save him. Tell me, what's the use of having that kind of trash as a master? Zhu Yi's face darkened, and he didn't say anything. Yu Tian walked over to Xiao Yan's side and stepped on Xiao Yan's back, smiling, saying, Mr. Tao Er, you've misunderstood. Just look at the black-clothed brat and you'll know. Trash acknowledging trash as a master, it's a perfect match. Xiao Yan's eyes were blood red. Don't call me trash. Today's feeling of powerlessness once again made him think of those 3 dark years of his. Yu Tian smiled, saying, I called you trash. What can you do? Nothing much, just leave your life behind. A cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded out in the air. Yu Tian's smile froze on his face. Everyone's expression slightly changed. Tao Er and old man Yuelao cast their gaze towards the distance. At that place, 2 figures appeared. One of them was a skinny and small youth, closely following behind the other person. That is a young Taoist wearing a white robe with wide sleeves, a feathered robe and a star crown. He was staring at them expressionlessly. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian called out at the same time. Master! Xiao Yan, who was on the ground, had already fallen into a semi-conscious state. After seeing the people that arrived, his eyes emitted a hint of weakness, and he started laughing. Lin Feng looked at the black-clothed youth whose face was covered in blood. After a moment of silence, he nodded and did not say anything. But Xiao Yan understood his meaning. Turning around to face Yu Tian and the others, Lin Feng only had one sentence. Come forward and accept your death. Chapter 75. Step forward and accept your death. Lin Feng's tone was calm as he spoke indifferently. Not to mention Yu Tian's expression suddenly changed. Tao Er and Yuelao even frowned. They couldn't see through Lin Feng's cultivation, but being pointed at and scolded by Lin Feng like this, they were all enraged. Yuelao snorted coldly. Pretending to be mysterious, let this old man measure your worth. Finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and the black divine mountain pressing down on Xiao Yan flew into the air with a whoosh. It transformed into a huge mountain peak, covering the sky and pressing down on Lin Feng. The light in the sky above Lin Feng's head dimmed in an instant. "You're not worthy to fight with me." Lin Feng didn't even look at the mountain peak above his head as he said coldly, "I'll find an opponent of the same level for you." Before he finished speaking, a tall black figure suddenly appeared in front of Lin Feng. Yuelao was stunned. Only then did he see that the black figure looked like a human, but its entire body was covered in heavy armor. In the gaps of the armor, there was a faint red light flashing. A violent and terrifying aura engulfed the entire area. That disaster-like violent mana fluctuation caused Yuelao and Tao Er's expressions to change. Yuelao blurted out, "What is it?" Lin Feng didn't pay attention to him at all. He only said to the armored giant indifferently, "Slaughter this old ghost." The eyes on the giant's helmet were originally pitch black, but at this moment, 2 spots of red light suddenly lit up, and it let out a loud roar. Roar! A huge roar that seemed to come from ancient times resounded through the entire mountain range, as if a sleeping giant had suddenly awakened at this moment. Within the roar was a heart-palpitating cruelty and tyranny, as if it was filled with an endless desire for destruction and slaughter. The source of the roar represented the world's most terrifying calamity. Destruction, slaughter, annihilation. The world's most violent, most tyrannical vicious beast escaped from its cage and reappeared in the world. Before anyone could react, the armored giant stomped on the ground with both of his feet. The violent force caused the mountain rocks to split apart and soil to fly everywhere. Using the force of the recoil, the armored giant's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. The next time he appeared, he was already at the bottom of the Black Divine Mountain. At this time, the Black Divine Mountain had just floated above Lin Feng's head and had yet to descend. Yuelao's heart tightened. He saw the armored giant's fists facing upwards, adopting the stance of Heavenly King supporting the pagoda, and smashed the bottom of the Black Divine Mountain together. Before his fist even came into contact with the Black Divine Mountain, he could see the air at the bottom of the Divine Mountain distorting, as if space itself was about to be torn apart. The armored giant looked like he was going to collapse the sky with a single punch and shatter the earth. The Black Divine Mountain was nearly 100 meters tall and had a circumference of several hundred meters. Although the armored giant's body was burly, it was only 2 or 3 meters tall. The two of them were completely disproportionate in size, but amidst a loud explosion, the huge Black Divine Mountain was directly sent flying. The incomparably huge mountain was directly sent flying by a single punch. The surrounding onlookers were all dumbfounded. His life-bound artifact was thwarted, and Elder Yuelao even spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone looked at the armored giant in the sky in horror. War God Demon Puppet. This was the system reward that Lin Feng had received after completing the main mission. As long as enough energy was provided, this fearless War God Demon Puppet would be able to explode with absolutely terrifying combat power. Originally, with Lin Feng's current cultivation, he was completely unable to activate it. But he just happened to have a good material on hand. Sikong Nan's soul, which was controlled by him using the Netherworld Puppet, had previously been sent into the War God Demon Puppet. Although Sikong Nan's cultivation had declined due to his serious injuries, his strength in the past was extremely tyrannical. He didn't even care about Yuanying stage cultivators, so the quality of his soul was extremely high. And now, Lin Feng was using the method of sacrifice to force Sikong Nan to burn his soul, to power the War God Demon Puppet. Sikong Nan, who was already under Lin Feng's control, could only obediently sacrifice his soul no matter how hard he struggled. The anger and frustration in his heart intensified the War God Demon Puppet's ferocity and killing intent. After sending the Black God Mountain flying, the War God Demon Puppet landed on the ground from midair, creating a deep pit. Countless rocks rolled down, almost burying it alive. But in the next moment, the side of the pile of rocks exploded, sending countless rocks flying in all directions. From the pile of rocks, a huge black shadow shot up into the sky, heading straight for Elder Yuelao. Elder Yuelao's face was ashen. He summoned the Black God Mountain to block in front of him. The huge mountain had now shrunk to the size of a human fist. His magic power was condensed to the extreme, and his defense was also raised to the extreme. Elder Yuelao spat out a mouthful of blood on the God Mountain. The God Mountain exploded with a shocking light. The black light flowed and condensed into a shield. On the shield was a relief of the giant miracle god, emitting a strong and indestructible aura. The giant miracle god shield, the strongest defense. But it was useless. The war god demon puppet smashed the giant miracle god shield with a single punch, sending the black god mountain flying again. This time, it directly turned into a small dot and flew into the horizon, disappearing without a trace. Elder Yuelao was dumbstruck. The war god demon puppet had already rushed in front of him and sent him flying with a slap. The elder coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew horizontally. Half of the bones in his body cracked and broke within his body. It was deformed, and he looked limp. Before it was over, the war god demon puppet's figure flashed, and it had already caught up to him. Lin Feng coldly laughed and said, "Did you want to crush all the bones in my disciple's body just now?" The war god demon puppet raised its large foot and heavily stomped on Elder Yuelao's body. The elder let out a blood-curdling wah sound, and the half of his body that was still in good condition was now completely shattered. His entire body became a pile of mud as it softly fell onto the ground. The group of Yu family cultivators all had lifeless expressions. They were originally surrounding the little guy, but after seeing this scene, it was unknown who was the first to react. They immediately retreated for fear that they would become the war god demon puppet's target. With one person taking the lead, everyone else reacted and uniformly retreated. A large empty space immediately appeared around the little guy's body. Yu Tian's eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. The consecrators of the Golden Elixir period were considered the backbone of the Yu family, yet they were actually trampled to the ground in one move. What made his heart tremble even more was that Lin Feng's gaze had already landed on his body, and he coldly said, "Just now, did you say that my disciple is trash?" Yu Tian's entire body trembled, and he shrunk back, wanting to hide in the crowd. Before, he was afraid that he wasn't outstanding enough, but now he was afraid that Lin Feng would see him. Unfortunately, he was only deceiving himself. The war god demon puppet charged into the crowd like lightning and knocked everyone into a complete mess. It then grabbed towards Yu Tian. Yu Tian angrily shouted, "You're going too far." A crystal bottle flew out from his sleeve, and as it faced the wind, it grew to a height of over 10 meters. The mouth of the bottle was aimed at the war god demon puppet, and it was about to suck the demon puppet inside. At the same time, Yu Tian circulated the magic power of the mysterious underworld art to the extreme, and a thick icy mist pervaded the air, wanting to freeze the opponent. Unfortunately, it was all useless. The war god demon puppet completely ignored the icy mist and directly smashed the crystal bottle into pieces with one punch. Then, like grabbing a little chick, it pulled Yu Tian out of the icy mist. Yu Tian let out a scream of terror. "What are you doing?" Lin Feng coldly looked at Yu Tian. "Just now, you stepped on my disciple with this foot, right?" As he said this, with a thought, the war god demon puppet grabbed Yu Tian's right leg. "No, you dare." Yu Tian didn't finish his words. The war god demon puppet had already forcefully torn one of his legs off his body. Yu Tian let out a miserable howl, and before he could faint, the war god demon puppet's angry roar had already completely torn his entire body apart. In the sky full of blood rain, the war god demon puppet roared at the sky like a god of death, violent, cruel, and insufferably arrogant. Tao Er, who had been silent all this time, suddenly took a step forward. His skinny body was as fast as lightning, and he pounced towards Xiao Yan on the ground. Lin Feng's expression turned cold. "You're courting death." The war god demon puppet let out a roar and threw away Yu Tian, who was like a broken cloth bag. Like lightning, it rushed out and blocked Tao Er's path. What a fast speed! Tao Er's expression was calm. He originally wanted to use Xiao Yan as a hostage, but now that he was intercepted by the war god demon puppet, he changed his attack and wanted to catch the war god demon puppet off guard. The old man took a deep breath, and all the skin on his body that was like dry tree bark started to shake violently. Everyone's vision blurred, and they saw Tao Er's skinny body inflate like a balloon. His wrinkled old skin also instantly became smooth and full, and it even flashed with a glossy red glow. In an instant, the old Tao heir seemed to have returned to his youth, and in an instant, he had become a muscular man who was 10 feet tall. The muscles under the surface of his body were like cast iron, full of explosive power. His round face was solemn, and his eyes stared at Lin Feng, like the angry eyes of a King Kong. At this moment, Tao heir finally brought out his true strength. Only in this state could he bring out the full power of the dragon and elephant Vajra fist. Tao heir exhaled and shouted, "Heavenly dragon celestial phenomenon, suppress all demons." Following this loud shout, the magic power around Tao heir's body began to vibrate violently. Then, a 30 feet tall Vajra silhouette condensed above his head. At the same time, a gigantic dragon and an elephant appeared, revolving around the Vajra silhouette. One dragon and one elephant together let out a deafening roar. The giant dragon's scales trembled, and it emitted the supreme majesty of the nine heavens dragon, suppressing millions of lives in the world. The elephant's muscles bulged, and its four hooves stomped madly, almost causing an earthquake. Tao heir's dragon and elephant attack was also his trump card. It was the killing move of the dragon and elephant Vajra fist, dragon and elephant demon subduing. His strength was displayed to the extreme, as he ferociously attacked the war god puppet. But it was still useless. The war god demon puppet didn't even look at Tao heir's attack, nor did it block. Both of its fists rushed up, and like the tremors of the earth, the lava of a volcano, the reverse flow of rivers and lakes, and the startled ancient azure dragon, they all exploded together. Just this one burst of strength had directly shattered Tao heir's dragon and elephant shadow. The war god demon puppet's fists turned into palms, and both hands flipped over, smashing down on Tao heir's head. With this flip and pressure, Tao heir suddenly felt as if the world was turning upside down, and the entire sky was collapsing. A destructive force, like the chaos of the universe, enveloped him entirely. The power of heaven and earth turning upside down. This was Tao heir's thought as he faced the war god demon puppet's move. This kind of power had almost worn out his courage. But he was after all a cultivator for many years. After swallowing a golden elixir, he broke through the door of no indulgence, and he had a strong will in his heart. In an instant, he regained his composure. With a loud roar, he flipped his hands up, and in a holding position, he forcefully blocked the war god demon puppet's palms. Boom! The moment his arms came into contact with the war god demon puppet's palms, Tao heir immediately felt all the bones in his body creak, as if they were about to explode at any moment. Tao heir's vision turned black, and the blood in his body was so agitated that it felt like it was about to explode. His mind relaxed, and his knees went soft, causing him to kneel on the ground on one knee. One knee landed heavily on the ground, as if a sledgehammer had smashed into the ground. The hard ground around him collapsed, forming a huge pit, as if a meteorite had landed on the ground. The surrounding dust and dirt flew up like a sandstorm. This attack from the war god demon puppet had directly forced a cultivator of the golden elixir period to kneel on the ground. This kneel had completely shattered Tao heir's kneecap. His entire leg was completely crippled. If he hadn't knelt and stood up straight to stop the war god demon puppet's attack, Tao heir's bones would have been crushed into pieces. Even his spine would have been damaged. Tao heir, who had always been calm and composed, finally panicked at this moment. His eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a crazed and desperate roar. The energy in his body revolved to the extreme, and the golden light condensed again, trying to shake off the war god demon puppet. Lin Feng looked at Tao heir coldly, not saying a word. He only gave an order to Sikong Nan's soul, which had been injected into the war god demon puppet's body. Burn it completely, explode it all. The war god demon puppet's eyes flashed with a red light, and he let out a loud roar. His body suddenly straightened, and the armor on his body opened up. Bright red light shot out from the gaps, as if something had exploded in his body. The war god demon puppet stood still, and the ground shook violently as if there was an earthquake. The originally exhausted palms suddenly exploded with a power that could collapse the heavens and the earth, pressing down on Tao heir. Kacha! 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 Ah! With a crazed scream, the bones all over Tao Er's body twisted. Many of his bones were crushed by the war god demon puppet's second attack. After Old Man Yu, the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, the golden elixir period cultivator Tao Er also followed in his footsteps, and all of his bones were shattered by the war god demon puppet. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them with a face full of fear, unable to speak for a long time. Amidst the war god demon puppet's furious roar, Lin Feng's voice was calm and cold, as if it came from hell. Who else? Chapter 76. Who else? Lin Feng asked silently. The cultivators from the Marquis' mansion and the Yu family looked at the war god puppet in fear. They shook their heads and retreated, afraid that they would be the next target. Lin Feng's brows slightly furrowed. With a thought, the war god demon puppet roared towards the sky. It contained an endless amount of mana and formed invisible ripples that spread towards the surroundings, shaking the opponents until they staggered. The sound waves spread far into the sky. The air in the sky shook, revealing Huikong's shocked face. Lin Feng laughed coldly. You still want to hide at the side and take advantage of the situation? Those who have designs on my disciple today don't even think about escaping. The war god puppet roared and exerted strength in its legs again, creating a deep pit in the ground. Its body shot toward Huikong like a cannonball. Huikong's expression changed. He was about to use the Great Penguin technique to escape. If he used his escape technique, he would instantly soar into the sky and escape thousands of miles away. The war god puppet wouldn't be able to catch up to him. However, the war god puppet's explosive power was too strong. Its short-distance speed was shocking. In the blink of an eye, it crossed thousands of meters, as if it had teleported, and arrived in front of Huikong. At this time, Huikong didn't even have time to use his escape technique. Too fast, the war god puppet's speed was too fast. Huikong could have used his escape technique with a thought, but it was still too late. Huikong stared and shouted, Buddha is merciful. If he couldn't dodge, then he wouldn't. With a flash of Buddhist light, the rock spread its wings and let out a deafening cry. It created a strong storm, as if it was going to tear the sky apart. As the rock flapped its wings, countless light blades shot toward the war god puppet. Unfortunately, it was all useless. The war god puppet's armor had already turned red. With its last burst of energy, it forced its way through the rain of light and opened its arms to hug Huikong, who was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Tightly gripped by the war god puppet's iron-like arms, Huikong couldn't move. He couldn't even circulate his magic power, and was captured alive. Today, of the 3 golden elixir period cultivators who wanted to harm Lin Feng and his disciple, 2 were dead, and 1 was captured. Lin Feng waved the black cloud flag, and stored the war god puppet and Huikong away. Withdrawing the black cloud flag, Lin Feng did not say anything. He stood with his hands behind his back, and looked at the sky in another direction. A burst of laughter came from the sky. Fellow Taoist, you've let this old man watch a good show. The clouds parted and Pu Beizi's figure was revealed. There were a few people behind him, who were obviously the leaders of the Xiandao sect. Lin Feng said lightly, Fellow Taoist, you've watched enough. Now that you've shown yourself, what do you say? Hengyu Mountain had already become the territory of the Xiandao sect. The battle happening nearby had naturally alerted Pu Beizi. He had rushed here early in the morning, and had been observing silently from the side. He was not interested in Tao Er or Yuelao. His attention was always on Lin Feng. Unfortunately, Lin Feng didn't even make a move himself. He only sent out a puppet to sweep through the entire field. Although that puppet is domineering, it can only be fierce in front of golden elixir period cultivators. It's nothing to me, Pu Beizi thought. But this Taoist is really unfathomable. I have no enmity with him, and I even owe him a small favor. This person is not an enemy. The Xiandao sect cultivators behind him all looked at Lin Feng with fear. 2 of the golden elixir period cultivators were worried. What a domineering puppet. If I were to go against it, I would probably die. If the puppet is like this, wouldn't its master be even stronger? Why haven't I heard of such a person before? The few Foundation establishment cultivators looked at Lin Feng and the war god puppet with fear in their eyes. Pu Beizi made up his mind not to become enemies with Lin Feng, so he calmed down a lot and smiled calmly. The main culprit has been killed by fellow cultivator. As for the rest of the small fries, I'll take care of them. They are causing trouble in my Xiandao sect, so I'm responsible. Lin Feng sneered in his heart. His words sounded nice, as if he was helping Lin Feng. But in fact, wasn't he doing it for himself? The Xiandao sect is located at the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty, so they don't fear the house of the Marquis of Xuanji in the first place. If the Marquis of Xuanji dares to come to the Great Qin, naturally there will be a big shot of the Great Qin to come forward. As for the Yu family, it was even less of a problem. Offending the Yu family wasn't a problem for the Xiandao sect. Instead, they might even benefit from it. The southern border was the sphere of influence of the Hua family, one of the four great families of the Great Qin dynasty. The Hua family and the Yu family had always been at odds. Their relationship was close to being mortal enemies. If the Xiandao sect handed these Yu family disciples to the Hua family, it would be a great merit. They would be valued by the leader of the region, and it would be beneficial for the Xiandao sect's development. This old monster Pu Beizi was quite shrewd. However, Lin Feng didn't plan on stopping him. Instead, he went with the flow and agreed. With one more person to help him share the attention of the Marquis of Xuanji and the Yu family, why not? Seeing Lin Feng agree, Pu Beizi laughed loudly, ordering the Xiandao sect experts behind him. Capture them all. Lin Feng arrived beside Xiao Yan and picked up the weak black-clothed youth. Xiao Yan cracked a smile. Master, I saw it all. Good beating. Lin Feng felt the bones on his body. There were many places that were broken. Xiao Yan was in so much pain that he was shaking. Xiao Yan, you're good, very good. Lin Feng took in a deep breath. Don't worry, Master will definitely heal you. I won't delay your arranged battle with Murong Yanran. Xiao Yan grimaced in pain. Master, you have to keep your word. Otherwise, when the time comes, disciple won't only lose my face, but also yours. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also walked over at this time. Both of their expressions were heavy. Xiao Budian's eyes even reddened. Eldest senior brother. The enemies that came today, strictly speaking, came for him and Zhu Yi. It has nothing to do with Xiao Yan, but in the end it was Xiao Yan who suffered a great disaster. Xiao Yan cracked a smile. You guys call me eldest senior brother, so I'll do my best to protect you guys. Just like Master said before, in normal families, even older brothers have to protect their younger siblings, let alone us? Xiao Yan's gaze turned behind Lin Feng. Looking at Wang Lin, who didn't know what to do, he smiled and said, Oh, your master's new disciple. Witnessing everything that happened earlier, Wang Lin's emotions were surging and hadn't completely calmed down. Lin Feng didn't do anything himself, and only sent a puppet to beat the 3 golden elixir cultivators, to the point of throwing away their helmets and armors. The demon-like Pu Beizi, who moved a mountain and almost destroyed the Hengyu sect by himself, was no longer as domineering and arrogant in front of Lin Feng. Seeing Lin Feng start a massacre for his disciple, and seeing Xiao Yan get seriously injured for the sake of his 2 junior brothers, Wang Lin suddenly felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He respectfully bowed to Xiao Yan. This bow was more sincere than any bow he had ever given in the Hengyu sect. Wang Lin greets senior brother. The 4 junior brothers bowed to each other, while Lin Feng thought to himself, Xiao Yan's injuries are too serious. If he doesn't take good care of it, his body will be crippled. He suddenly remembered that half a year ago in the Black Cloud Underground Palace, he killed the monk Hui Ku and obtained the pill recipe for the Sonic Thunder Great Return Pill. The Sonic Thunder Great Return Pill was the famous healing medicine of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. It had a miraculous effect in treating injuries to the body, bringing the dead back to life and regrowing flesh and bones. Lin Feng sighed and thought, I need to properly learn alchemy. The black cloud flag spread out and swept up the 4 disciples, flying through the air. Pu Beizi looked at Lin Feng's departing figure and smacked his lips. If only I had a disciple like him. The other Xiandao sect cultivators were thinking the same thing. If only I had a master like him. Chapter 77. Driving the black cloud flag to fly in the air. Lin Feng pondered about the thunderous great rejuvenating pill, while nervously entering the system. It seemed like this damned system had issued a new mission. After gathering 4 disciples, Lin Feng completed the first main mission. The new mission issued this time should not be a side mission, but a new main mission. Main Mission 1. 1. Create the Sect's Foundation Dao Technique Mission Description. It's good for a sect to be all-inclusive and integrate the Dao arts and divine abilities of other inheritances. But it must be able to carry on the past and open up a new path. It must be able to improve upon its current foundation and possess its own Dao arts and divine abilities. Only then would it be able to lead the masses and establish its position as the #1 sect in the world. Mission time limit, 1 year. If the mission is not completed within the time limit, the host will be killed. Looking at the mission description, Lin Feng nodded repeatedly and felt the same way. He was going to establish his own sect, so of course he must have his own unique Dao technique foundation. If he kept using other people's Dao techniques and divine powers, he would be recognized and embarrassed. No matter how powerful other people's Dao techniques and divine powers were, it was still someone else's inheritance. How could it be the foundation of his own sect? If he wanted to establish his own sect, he must be original, and his own self-created Dao techniques and divine powers had to surpass all existing ones in the world. Only then could it be considered the inheritance of the #1 sect. However, looking at the mission time limit, Lin Feng's face instantly darkened. It was only 1 year, but how could it be so easy to create one's own Dao techniques and divine powers? Lin Feng smiled bitterly inside. His dream of cultivating in seclusion for 100 years, and then coming out to kill everyone was shattered. At least let me build my foundation first. Lin Feng was already at Qi refinement great perfection. The next step was to open up his Qi Si and build his Dao foundation. Going from Qi refinement to foundation building was a qualitative leap, and it could greatly increase Lin Feng's strength. Although he had just swept away 3 golden elixir period cultivators, Lin Feng knew that it was the power of the war god demon puppet, and not his own. The war god puppet's battle prowess was directly proportional to the strength of its energy source. It would be very difficult to have the same kind of power as Sikong Nan's sacrifice today, in a short period of time. A giant old devil like Sikong Nan just happened to be in trouble, and then fell into his hands. This was a good thing that could only be encountered by chance. Right now, Lin Feng didn't even have enough resources to move the war god golem again, let alone the strength it had today. The only way was to provide the Sarira to the war god puppet as a power source. However, the 24 Heaven Arhat formation was Lin Feng's strongest weapon apart from the war god puppet. Without a relic, he would not be able to set up the formation. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Feng did not want to take that step. Therefore, Lin Feng wanted to advance to the foundation establishment stage first. After reaching the foundation establishment stage, Lin Feng would be able to refine Sariras again. At that time, he could reduce the number of Sariras needed to set up the formation, and change the 24 Heaven Arhat formation to 18 Arhats, 16 Arhats, and so on. Although the power of the Arhat formation would be reduced, it would still provide enough energy for the war god puppet. It was clearly a good deal. However, just as Lin Feng had this thought, a notification popped up from the system. After seeing it clearly, Lin Feng almost fainted. Establishing the Dao foundation is the first step to achieving longevity. It is also the most important foundation. The hosts must use the sect's self-created Dao foundation to establish the foundation. Lin Feng's chest tightened. At this time, other than vulgarities, there was nothing else he wanted to say. He should have known that there was no such thing as the most deceitful system, only more deceitful. Foundation Dao Foundation Creation System activated. Do you want to enter now? Lin Feng groaned and clicked to enter. The system's notification continued to ring in his ears. The host will meditate on an image. The system will automatically create a Dao foundation based on the image. It's that simple. Lin Feng calmed down and pondered. It sounded simple. He only needed to think of an image in his mind. But what should he use? Should he play a prank or be serious? After thinking about it carefully, Lin Feng resisted the urge to play a prank. A tall building starts from a flat ground. If he was greedy for a moment of pleasure and caused his foundation to become unstable, it would affect the completion of the later missions. Presumably, this stupid system would not mind giving him a quick death. Dao Foundation. Dao Foundation. Lin Feng thought for a while, and an image of black and white blended together appeared in his mind. Tai Chi. This world did not seem to have a Tai Chi diagram. The symbol of the Taoist Holy Land, Tai Chi Temple, was only a white auspicious cloud. The host's thoughts are confirmed. Beginning creation. Hearing the emotionless mechanical voice in his ears, Lin Feng sighed. The heavens had pity on him. He actually wanted to try a transformer or a pickup truck. Heavenly virtue scripture successfully created. An empty scene appeared in Lin Feng's mind, and a Tai Chi diagram of yin and yang appeared in the void. The Tai Chi diagram spun and turned into black and white, filling the entire void. Next, from the black and white poles, the 4 images of earth, water, fire, and wind were born. The chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind in the void stabilized and further evolved into the 8 images of heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and lake. Looking at this scene, Lin Feng understood. This is Tai Chi giving birth to yin and yang giving birth to the 4 images, and the 4 images giving birth to the 8 trigrams. The 8 images were divided into 8 directions and condensed in the void, turning into 8 black hole-like things and no longer changing. The system's notification sounded again. Host, please choose the basic reference Tao technique and create the first chapter of the Heavenly Virtue Scripture, the 8 trigrams chapter. Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly. He looked at the 8 images that represented the 8 trigrams carefully and connected with the system's notification. A guess appeared in his mind. Does this want me to get 8 types of Tao techniques that already exist in this world, and then fuse them together to obtain a brand new Tao technique as my self-created Tao technique? Thinking of this, Lin Feng decided to test it out. The 8 images that represent the 8 trigrams shouldn't be just for show. There must be some kind of requirement, or perhaps it's the original attribute of the Tao technique. Lin Feng silently thought about the 9 heavens thunder technique, and then he saw the black hole that represented thunder in the 8 trigrams suddenly light up, turning into a ball of white light. Then Lin Feng silently thought about the Yellow Springs Nirvana art. Sure enough, the black hole that represented water also turned into a ball of white light. In order to continue testing his guess, Lin Feng also silently thought about his other water Tao technique, the vast ocean river art. This time, the remaining 6 black holes had no reaction. Looks like it's like this. Lin Feng let out a long breath. Next was the art of Akala and Ksitigarbha Sutra. Sure enough, the black holes that represented fire and earth also lit up with white light. Looking at the remaining 4 black holes, Lin Feng frowned slightly. Heaven, wind, mountain, lake? Heaven, wind, mountain, lake. Wait a minute. Lin Feng's heart suddenly moved. A small black mountain the size of a fist trembled as it landed on his palm. This was Old Man Yu's lifebound magic artifact from before. After being sent flying by the war god puppet, Lin Feng had secretly used the black cloud flag to sweep it over. This small black mountain that could change in size had been repeatedly damaged by the war god puppet, and had already lost most of its spirituality. It had to be repaired and refined again. What Lin Feng cared about was not the magic artifact itself, but the words that were faintly engraved on the small mountain. The Book of Taiwa, haha, so it's like this. The heavens are really helping me. Lin Feng laughed happily. Perhaps to increase its power, Old Man Yu's magic artifact actually had a portion of his sex Tao technique, the Book of Taiwa, inscribed on it. Thinking about the Tao technique of the Book of Taiwa, the black hole that represented mountain also lit up with white light. The completion of his self-created Tao technique was already more than half done. Lin Feng's spirits instantly rose. There's still heaven, wind, and lake left, and I've already saved up quite a bit of exchange points. Taking Wang Lin as my disciple also rewarded me with a lottery ticket. Thinking up to here, Lin Feng immediately entered the exchange system. Chapter 78. Lin Feng first entered the exchange system. He had a clear goal this time, which was to try to find 3 suitable Dao techniques. Naturally, he had to leave the lucky draw system to the back and first find what he wanted in the exchange system. The 500 exchange points reward from the Black Cloud Underground Palace side quest, and the 500 points reward from taking in Zhu Yi as a disciple. Lin Feng had no use for them. Now, with the 500 points reward from taking in Wang Lin as a disciple, Lin Feng had accumulated a total of 1,500 points. Compared to the measly 300 points provided by the novice gift when he first opened the system, Lin Feng could now be considered to be carrying a huge sum of money. However, Dao techniques were all valuable items, so he still had to be careful when exchanging them. Stellar Net Arts, Secret Dao Technique of the Path of the Stars. Comprehend the principles of the circulation of the stars in the sky. This should be able to meet the criteria of heaven, right? Lin Feng glanced at the price. 800 points. Lin Feng frowned slightly and carefully searched for a moment in the exchange system, but the only Dao technique that had anything to do with heaven was the Stellar Net Arts. Let's look at the others first. Lin Feng changed his target and continued to search. Heavenly Wind Scripture. Secret Dao Technique of Heavenly Wind Monastery. Comprehend the mysteries of the circulation of wind and clouds. Cultivate the divine ability of heavenly wind and fierce wind. Turbid Wave Arts. Secret Dao Technique of Turbid Wave Sect. Simultaneously control the spiritual energy of water and earth. Water and earth in harmony, silt and mud, reliable. Although it was reliable, the price made Lin Feng somewhat worried. These 2 Dao techniques were the same price as the Stellar Net Arts. Both required 800 points. Adding the 3 together, it was a total of 2,400 points. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Just now he felt that he was considered a rich man, but now it seemed that he was still a poor man. I'll buy one first, then see if I can get lucky in the lottery. If it really doesn't work, I'll think of a way to get a side quest and earn another sum of points. Lin Feng pondered. At least the system still gave him a year's time. The main mission this time was a one-time deal. As long as he gathered 8 suitable Dao arts, he would be able to fuse them into his own original Dao art of the sect. It was unlike the previous main mission, where he had to find the 4 disciples one by one. Thinking of the reward of the main quest, Lin Feng's heart was filled with excitement. Although the power source was not easy to find, the power of the war god puppet had left a deep impression on Lin Feng. If he completed the main quest this time, the reward would not be too shabby, right? Lin Feng first paid 800 exchange points for the Stellar Luo technique. Comprehending the Starnet Mystic Art, a magnificent scene appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Just like the clear night sky, the vast starry sky could be seen at a glance. The stars in the sky rotated endlessly. Tens of thousands of stars moved and rotated in front of Lin Feng's eyes, displaying the most magnificent and profound scenes of the world. In a trance, Lin Feng only felt that he was in a void. There was no end to the space, and there was no end to time. Silently he was alone, drifting and drifting with the stars beside him. Every single ray of starlight seemed to contain a supreme law of heaven and earth. But when Lin Feng really wanted to explore the mysteries within, he brushed past it, unable to see the truth clearly. The concept of this Dao art is excellent. Tens of thousands of stars, each containing a powerful and profound concept. But the person who created this Dao art was ultimately not at a high enough level. He could only dabble in it, and in the end, he did not fully understand it. Lin Feng shook his head regretfully, but he did not take it to heart, because the black hole that represented heaven in the 8 trigrams had already lit up with a white light. Previously, Lin Feng had only guessed that this Dao art for comprehending the mysteries of the starry sky might meet the requirements. But if he had guessed wrong, the 800 yuan would have gone down the drain. But now that it was confirmed that the Stellar Luo technique met the system's requirements, Lin Feng was relieved. Out of the 8 Dao arts, he had already gathered 6. He needed 2 more, and he would be able to fuse them. After exiting from the exchange system, Lin Feng entered the lottery system and prayed in his heart. It would be best if I could directly draw one. That would make things much easier. He first looked at the roulette system, and the 3 Dao arts he got didn't meet the requirements. Entering the die system, Lin Feng checked the items he got, and the first thing he saw was a thunderous great rejuvenating pill. Good heavens! Lin Feng took a deep breath and looked down. He saw the heavenly wind Dao art silently placed in the number 12 grid. Lin Feng was a little conflicted. He couldn't have his cake and eat it too. This kind of choice was always a pain in the ass. But very soon, Lin Feng discovered something even more painful. The number of the thunderous great rejuvenating pill was 1, which meant that he had to roll 1 to get the pill. But the problem was, how could he roll 1 out of 3? It had to be at least 3. In the past, he had never encountered a situation where what he wanted was 1 and 2. So Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to it. Only now did he realize that this die lottery system actually couldn't draw 1 and 2. In addition to the 2 empty grids, there were actually 4 grids that the die system couldn't get. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You sly system! You even want to take advantage of me in such a small place? But this time Lin Feng could still accept it. The system had basically made the decision for him, and he just had to focus on the heavenly wind Dao art on the 12th. 12, 12, 12, go! Under Lin Feng's control, the system threw the die, and the 3 dice spun quickly on the disc. The first die stopped very quickly. Lin Feng looked at it, and his heart sank. 1. Lin Feng's heart tightened. The remaining 2 dice had to be 6 and 5, before he could get the heavenly wind Dao art. Very soon the second die landed. 6. Well done! Lin Feng clapped his hands and stared at the last die. He muttered, 5, 5, 5. The die landed. It was still 6. The first was 1, the second was 6, and the third was also 6. Lin Feng was silent for a moment and suddenly exploded. I bought a watch last year. You system, you are only 13, your whole family is 13. Fuck. Lin Feng exited the system with a gloomy face. He couldn't even be bothered to look at what was on the 13th grid. At this moment, the system notification suddenly rang in his ears. Host has triggered a random side mission, Wind and Thunder Talisman. Lin Feng was stunned. When he regained his senses, he first looked at what he had drawn. It was a palm-sized stone talisman, and its surface was engraved with sparse lines. It was simple and elegant. The flowing wind talisman was the treasure of the Wind and Thunder sect in the past. It was a pair with the other Thunder talisman. When the 2 talismans were combined, the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array could be set up. The Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array surged with wind and thunder, helping each other. When a cultivator cultivated in the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array, they could enjoy the endless nourishment of wind and thunder spiritual energy. Their cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary people. Lin Feng was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at the side mission. Random side mission, Wind and Thunder Talisman. Mission background. The Wind and Thunder Talisman was the treasure of the Wind and Thunder sect. It didn't have much power, but when the 2 talismans were combined, it was not the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array. Thus, other forces coveted it and came to snatch it. In the end, the Wind and Thunder sect was destroyed, and the 2 talismans went missing. Mission objective. Host went to the Wind and Thunder Sea of the Great Broken Mountain Range, where the Thunder Talisman Array was located, and found the Thunder Talisman Array through the connection between the Flowing Wind Talisman Array and the Thunder Talisman Array. Mission time limit, 3 months. If the mission is not completed within the time limit, the mission will be invalid. It's a blessing in disguise. Lin Feng sighed, and his face was full of smiles. Although this Wind and Thunder Talisman Array didn't have much combat power, it was like a cheat when used to assist in cultivation. With this item as compensation, the gloominess of not drawing the heavenly wind Dao Law was swept away. Furthermore, he had also triggered a side mission. After completing this side mission, he would receive the reward, and he would be able to directly exchange for Dao techniques from the exchange system. Lin Feng put away the Flowing Wind Talisman Array and thought to himself, I'll first think of a way to get a thunderous great rejuvenating pill to treat Xiao Yan's injuries. Then I'll head to the Wind and Thunder Sea of the Great Hengduan Mountain Range to look for the Thunder Talisman Array. Thinking to this point, Lin Feng prepared to go and see monk Hui Kong, who was captured by the war god demon puppet. Maybe this monk from the Great Thunderclap Monastery had a ready-made thunderous great rejuvenating pill. Chapter 79. As a golden elixir period magic item, even though the black cloud flag was tainted by the Blood River True Water and couldn't display its true power in battle, its ability to fly and move through space was still extremely handy for Lin Feng. As a spatial type magic item, other than being able to travel through space for short distances, the black cloud flag could also open up an independent space. 2 balls of black light flashed in the space, one of them wrapped around Xiao Yan and his fellow disciples. Lin Feng went to see them. Xiao Yan's injuries were still considered stable. The other ball of black light wrapped around the war god puppet. It had already calmed down. The red light in its eyes completely extinguished. Its terrifying aura also disappeared. It was like a statue. The war god puppet's arms were still tightly wrapped around Hui Kong. Even though the war god puppet had already lost its vitality, Hui Kong's Fali was also sealed, unable to move. Hui Kong saw Lin Feng and his lips moved, wanting to say something, but in the end he closed his mouth and didn't say anything. Lin Feng looked like he didn't care on the surface, but he was actually secretly observing Hui Kong. "You also came for my disciple?" Lin Feng asked indifferently. "I heard my disciples say that you recognized Hui Ku's Thundershock staff, and are looking for Hui Ku?" Hui Kong raised his head and chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. "Ba. This poor monk indeed came for that disobedient junior brother Hui Ku. To be more precise, this poor monk wants to recover the Buddhist bone relics of the sect elders that were desecrated by Hui Ku's hands. Hui Ku is treacherous, actually daring to refine the relics of our elders into magic items. This poor monk definitely cannot sit by and do nothing." Even though he fell into Lin Feng's hands, Hui Kong's expression was still calm. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid, but rather that he had faith in his heart, and his will was sufficiently firm. Lin Feng asked, "What is your Dharma name?" Hui Kong answered, "This poor monk's Dharma name is Hui Kong." Lin Feng looked at him and suddenly asked, "If I tell you Hui Ku's whereabouts, what will you do after you find him?" Hui Kong's drooping eyelids suddenly opened, and the divine light in his eyes rose explosively. "Cripple his cultivation, and imprison him to chant scriptures before the Buddha for the rest of his life, to atone for his sins." Lin Feng looked into his eyes and knew that the monk was serious. "Little monk, unfortunately, you won't be able to do it," Lin Feng said calmly. Hui Kong's expression didn't change. "What senior means is that you want to kill me, so I can't find junior Hui Ku to retrieve the Saraira. Or could it be that junior brother Hui Ku has already died in your hands, so I am unable to detain him to chant sutras in front of the Buddha to atone for his sins?" Lin Feng glanced at him. "You think you're smart?" Hui Kong replied, "Senior, please guide me." Lin Feng waved his sleeve. "Hui Ku is indeed dead, but he didn't die by my hands. He perished together with the cultivators under Zhu Honggu." Hui Kong's gaze slightly focused, and his expression became serious. "The Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Honggu? In the past, the Great Zhou dynasty united many powers to exterminate Buddhism, and the Marquis of Xuanji was the commander. Hui Kong was also a disciple of the Great Thunder Temple. Even though he wasn't as extreme as Hui Ku, he similarly hated the Marquis of Xuanji." Lin Feng smiled coldly. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. The second steward under Zhu Honggu, the Yu family's guest, were all slapped to pieces by me. If a direct descendant of the Yu family dares to step on my disciple, I'll take one of his legs. Why do you think I left you alive and didn't kill you, only capturing you alive?" Hui Kong lowered his head and said, "I didn't really offend your master and disciple. I just wanted to find out the whereabouts of the Saraira." Lin Feng said in his heart, "Of course it's because the war god puppet has no more power." But he naturally wouldn't say this to Hui Kong. Hearing Hui Kong's reply, Lin Feng slightly nodded his head. "This is only one of the reasons. The other reason is because of your junior brother, Hui Ku." Hui Kong looked towards Lin Feng with a bit of shock. Lin Feng calmly said, "Before Hui Ku passed away, I was right in front of him." This thundershock staff was given to me by him, before he died. Lin Feng slowly said. But those 24 Saraira were destroyed in the Nether Blood River under the Black Cloud Underground Palace. Hui Kong's expression changed greatly. Nether Blood River? Is what Senior said true? Lin Feng said indifferently. I only say what I say once. Hui Kong was extremely confused. If the Saraira was really transferred into the Nether Blood River, it would definitely be completely contaminated by the tainted blood and lose all of its Buddhist nature. He composed himself and said in a low voice, It was this poor monk's impoliteness. Please tell me the details. Lin Feng suddenly changed his tone and asked, Because of the Saraira, you're very dissatisfied with your junior brother Hui Ku? Hui Kong was slightly startled, but still answered very calmly, This poor monk did indeed violate the precept of anger because of this matter. But this is how my heart is, and I don't dare to quibble or cover it up. Lin Feng nodded his head and continued to say, Do you know what Hui Ku said the most before he died? He stared into Hui Kong's eyes and slowly said, Hui Ku said that he knew that he deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors, and would definitely go to hell. He only hated that he couldn't see the day when the Great Zhou dynasty was destroyed, and his master's blood feud was avenged. Hui Kong instantly became silent. In essence, Hui Ku was the same as him. Hui Ku violated the precept of anger and killing, because of the hatred of his master being destroyed, and even more so didn't hesitate to refine the Saraira of his master's elders as a magic artifact in order to increase his strength and take revenge on the Great Zhou dynasty. He himself also knew that this was an act of deceiving his master and destroying his ancestors. But he just couldn't restrain the anger and hatred in his heart. This was also Hui Ku's heart. It couldn't be quibbled or covered up, and there was no need to quibble or cover up. Lin Feng said with a bit of regret. Even though your junior brother Hui Ku's personality is extreme, he will definitely take revenge if he has a grudge. And it's not even a personal grudge, it's the blood feud of his master. Going straight, taking revenge if there's a grudge, I admire people like him. Hui Ku knows that you've always been tracking him. He doesn't ask for your forgiveness. He only asks that after he gets his revenge, he'll let you deal with him, and the Saraira will be worshipped again. Lin Feng said faintly. Hui Ku had an epiphany before he died. His anger and hatred dissipated. His biggest regret isn't that he died before he got his revenge, but that the Saraira was lost in the Nether Blood River, unable to be returned to your hands. Hui Kong's face gradually paled, a look of pain appearing in his eyes. Lin Feng had always been paying attention to every change in his expression. Seeing this scene, he felt even more confident in his heart, and hurriedly continued to strike while the iron was hot. Hui Ku has always hoped to obtain your forgiveness. He gave me that thundershock staff because he hoped that I would return it to you, and help him pass on a message, saying that he's destined to enter the infernal hell to atone for his crimes. But everything he does is for the Great Thunder Temple. If he has any bit of selfishness, the heavens will destroy him. I passed on the thundershock staff to my disciple before. It was only for him to temporarily use for self-defense. Lin Feng lightly said, Since I've met you today, I might as well give it to you. Finishing speaking, Lin Feng handed the thundershock staff to Hui Kong, but Hui Kong didn't take it. His face was deathly pale, only muttering to himself, Junior brother, you've gone the wrong way. You've really gone the wrong way. You are muddle-headed AI. At this point, Lin Feng was already completely clear that this Hui Kong and Hui Ku, when they studied together in the Great Thunder Temple back then, their relationship was definitely extremely close. It's very likely that they were taught by the same master, fellow disciples who ate and lived together. After the Great Thunder Temple was destroyed, the two escaped together. The irritable and extreme Hui Ku refined an elder's Saraira as a magic item to increase his strength, and the serious and upright Hui Kong broke off relations with him because of this. It's because of their deep feelings in the past that Hui Kong couldn't tolerate Hui Ku doing this kind of profane thing to his elder's remains. That's why he was so persistent in wanting to capture Hui Ku and take back the Saraira. Understanding the relationship between the two, Lin Feng decisively added the final blow. So, Half of the credit for you being able to escape from my hands today belongs to that junior brother you've always been chasing. Where you go in the future, you're on your own." Hui Kong looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh, tears falling like rain, but he remained silent. Lin Feng's expression was calm, looking at him without saying anything. After a long time, Hui Kong's emotions finally calmed down. He took a deep breath, looked at Lin Feng and said, "Thank you, Senior, for telling this humble monk so many things and unraveling the knot in this humble monk's heart for over 10 years. This Thundershock staff was given to Senior by junior brother Hui Ku. Since Senior has already passed it on to your brilliant disciple, this humble monk naturally won't ask for it back. I believe that even junior brother Hui Ku will agree with this humble monk's decision." Lin Feng asked silently, "If I let you go, what will you do?" Hui Kong said, "This humble monk wishes to go to the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty and make a trip to that underground palace to pay respects to junior brother Hui Ku, then try to go deeper into the underground palace to see if I can luckily find a few Saraira. Even though the hope is slim, this humble monk will still give it his all." Lin Feng could tell that this monk was a man of his word. Therefore he loosened the restraints of the war god puppet and let Hui Kong out. Hui Kong put his hands together and bowed. "Before I offended your master and disciple, I am indebted to Senior's magnanimity. This humble monk cannot thank Senior enough. If fate wills it, we will meet again in the future. If there's anything that this humble monk can do, Senior, please let me know." Lin Feng nodded his head indifferently. Hui Kong chanted the name of Buddha again, activating the Great Peng wind riding technique, and instantly disappearing into the distance. Looking at Hui Kong's disappearing figure, Lin Feng let out a long breath. Because of his relationship with Zhu Yi, he can't avoid going against the house of the Marquis of Xuanji and the Great Zhou dynasty in the future. Burying a few more nails for them will only have benefits and no disadvantages. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. If I can make use of it, why not? Also, hee. Lin Feng smiled and took out a storage bag from his chest. This is Hui Kong's storage bag. The storage bag of a golden elixir period cultivator. There should be something in it. Chapter 80. With Lin Feng's cultivation, he naturally couldn't remove the seal left on the storage bag by a golden elixir period cultivator. However, he had the Yellow Springs true water that could purify all things. He had taken the Yellow Springs pearl from Wang Lin. Although he could not use the Yellow Springs pearl to fight, it was still very convenient to draw out a little Yellow Springs true water to remove the seal Hui Kong left on the storage bag. Opening the storage bag, sticking his head out to take a look, Lin Feng instantly curled his lips. This monk Hui Kong seemed to have walked the path of ascetic cultivation. There was nothing good in the storage bag. Apart from some clothes, silver, and other miscellaneous items, there were only some medicinal ingredients. Lin Feng didn't know anything about medicinal ingredients. He could only bitterly compare them with the system to identify the types of medicinal ingredients. As he looked, Lin Feng was overjoyed. These medicinal ingredients were actually the raw materials for the Thunder Sound Great Rejuvenating Pill. With these medicinal ingredients in Hui Ku's pill recipe, Lin Feng could refine the Thunder Sound Great Rejuvenating Pill by himself. Not bad, not bad. Although it's a little troublesome, it's nothing. I can do it myself. Lin Feng thought happily and continued to check the storage bag. Suddenly, a bronze mirror caught Lin Feng's attention. The mirror was about a foot in diameter. The frame was intact, but there was a big hole in the middle of the mirror. However, Lin Feng could clearly feel that there was still spiritual qi left in the bronze mirror. Lin Feng picked up the bronze mirror. Suddenly, the system's notification rang in his ears. Host has triggered a random side quest. Repair the heaven and earth mirror. Lin Feng opened his mouth wide. After a long time, he finally closed it. My luck improved greatly. The side quest for the wind and thunder seal had not been completed yet. Now there was another one. Happiness came too suddenly. It really caught Lin Feng off guard. You're called the Heaven and Earth Mirror? That's a very impressive name. Lin Feng calmed himself down and started to read the quest description. Random side quest, repair the Heaven and Earth Mirror. Quest background. The heaven and earth mirror has been greatly damaged. It has lost its previous miraculous effects. Only the galaxy sand can repair it. Quest objective. Go to the great swamp of the ancient region and collect enough galaxy sand to repair the heaven and earth mirror. Quest time limit, 3 months. If the quest is not completed within the time limit, the quest will be invalid. Lin Feng scratched his head. They're both 3 months, but the Great Hengduan Mountain Range and the Great Swamp Guyu are on the east and west. The distance between them is more than 1,000,000 miles. Even with the Black Cloud flag, I won't be able to travel to both places in 3 months. With such a long distance, even with the Black Cloud flag, it was impossible to run to both places in 3 months. The Black Cloud flag could only move within a short distance. Flying in the air was obviously not fast enough. This was only for the time spent on the road. If I were to search, I would need to complete the quest. The Qin wouldn't have time. Both quests required him to find an item. If the item was placed there, it might not necessarily be taken away by someone else. However, if the quest was not completed within the time limit, the reward for the side quest given by the system would definitely be lost. Lin sex Dao's phone quests was needs. Lin needed to exchange for star quest. The side quests were all randomly assigned. If he missed this village, he wouldn't know when he would get another one. Lin Feng believed in one principle, and that was the preservation of one's character. Today his character had exploded. It would be a long time before he would receive such treatment again. How distressing. Lin Feng shook his head, and once again rummaged through Huikong's storage pouch. After finding nothing else, he turned his attention back to the pile of medicinal ingredients. I'll first think of a way to get a pill furnace, and then refine the Thunder Sound Great Cyclic Pill. The longer Xiao Yan's injuries are delayed, the worse his condition will be. Lin Feng controlled the Black Cloud flag, and flew for thousands of kilometers before landing. After asking for directions, he took off again, and arrived at an ancient city in the southeast of the Great Qin dynasty. Just like Chuzhou, this place also had a huge cultivation material market. Lin Feng's goal was to exchange for a pill furnace. Even though there are pill furnaces in the exchange system, and they are good stuff, but the amount of points needed to exchange is too much. Right now Lin Feng urgently needs a large amount of points to exchange for Dao techniques. He really can't bear to exchange for a pill furnace. Thus, he could only come to the market himself. However, Lin Feng was more careful. He brought Zhu Yi along. After entering the market, he instructed Zhu Yi, and the two of them went their separate ways. Lin Feng wandered around for a long time, but he still couldn't find a suitable pill furnace. The pill furnace's complexity was the highest among all Dharma artifacts. The refining process involved alchemy, formations, and many other things. The difficulty of refining was ranked first in the Tao of refining. The Thunder Sound Great Cyclic Pill was also not an ordinary pill. To refine such a high-grade pill, a good pill furnace could greatly increase the success rate and play a great role. Lin Feng, who didn't gain anything, sighed. After confirming Zhu Yi's position, he walked over and saw Zhu Yi bargaining with a loose cultivator. Lin Feng took a closer look. What Zhu Yi is holding in his hand is precisely a pill furnace. It looks pitch black and ordinary, just that the style is a bit more ancient. However, Lin Feng didn't dare to look down on this pill furnace, because it was Zhu Yi's. Who was Zhu Yi? The son of the Kiliacosm, the king of luck. His luck was full of 10 points. Even Tiny Tot and the others, who were also at the Son of Heaven level, couldn't compare. This kid was definitely a great killing machine for finding treasures. At this time, Zhu Yi also saw Lin Feng coming over. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Master." At the same time, he secretly transmitted his voice to Lin Feng using magic power. "Master, although this pill furnace looks ordinary, disciple always feels that it is a bit strange. Master, please make a decision." Lin Feng thought to himself, "Good disciple, as long as you feel that it is strange." But on the surface, Lin Feng only glanced at the pill furnace indifferently, and then no longer paid attention to it. Zhu Yi also didn't say anything and obediently stood behind Lin Feng. Seeing that Lin Feng was the real owner, the loose cultivator hurriedly used his glib tongue to recommend his goods to Lin Feng. Lin Feng casually picked up a white jade box. It was slightly cool to the touch, but he didn't feel cold. The ice-cold aura inside flowed continuously and evenly, without the slightest change. When the seller saw it, he immediately excitedly introduced it. Fellow Taoist really has a good eye. This yuan sealing box is of extraordinary quality. It was carved from an entire yuan sealing stone. When precious medicinal ingredients are placed inside, not a single bit of spiritual energy and medicinal properties will be lost. It is really a rare treasure. Some spiritual herbs would quickly lose their spiritual energy once they were picked, turning into waste. At this time, with this yuan sealing box, one wouldn't fail on the verge of success. Lin Feng asked indifferently, "How much is it?" I wonder if this fellow Taoist is prepared to use items or medicinal pills to exchange for it. Yuan cultivating pill, do you want to take it? Yuan cultivating pill was a medicinal pill that Lin Feng had obtained from Huikong's storage bag. It was rich in spiritual energy and could strengthen one's foundation. It was helpful for cultivators to cultivate Dao techniques. The loose cultivator's eyes immediately lit up. Unless he knew how to refine pills, it was very difficult for a loose cultivator like him, who didn't belong to a sect, to obtain medicinal pills that were helpful for cultivation. If it's yuan cultivating pill, there is no problem. The loose cultivator smiled. 30 yuan cultivating pills, and this yuan sealing box is yours. Yuan cultivating pills were not easy to refine. Huikong's storage bag only had 50 to 60 of them. Hearing that the other party actually dared to ask for an exorbitant price, Lin Feng wasn't angry. He looked at the other party and lightly spat out 2 words. Too expensive. The loose cultivator scratched his head. Fellow Taoist, this is really good stuff. Think about it. If there wasn't a yuan sealing box, wouldn't you cry to death if you encountered a spiritual herb that would rapidly lose its spiritual energy after being picked? Lin Feng said lightly, since you sold the yuan sealing box, you are not a person who picks medicinal herbs to refine pills. There is no use for you to keep the yuan sealing box. The yuan cultivating pill is what you urgently need. I am willing to use medicinal pills to exchange for items, so you should give me a more reliable price. The smile on the loose cultivator's face froze. He felt bitter in his heart. Originally, he saw that Lin Feng was an unfamiliar face, so he asked for an exorbitant price. He didn't expect the other party to be so clear about it. He clenched his teeth and said, 25 yuan cultivating pills, I really can't go any lower. 5. Lin Feng grinned, but it almost made the loose cultivator jump. How is that possible? Are you here to cause trouble? Seeing the other party fly into a rage out of humiliation, Lin Feng wasn't anxious and said leisurely, you just said that this was carved from a whole piece of yuan sealing stone. The loose cultivator's heart skipped a beat. He saw Lin Feng point at the yuan sealing box and say, then tell me, what's going on with this seam that fits together? Cause trouble? Who wants to cause trouble? Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed and became cold. What do you think the consequences will be for frauds in this market? Laughing bitterly, the loose cultivator said in a low voice, fellow Taoist, please forgive me. I have no choice. How about this 20 yuan cultivating pills? Seeing that Lin Feng's eyebrows were raised again, he hurriedly changed his words and said, 15. I really can't go any lower, otherwise I'll lose money. 10. If you agree, we'll hand over the money. Otherwise, we'll go to the market management and have a good talk. Lin Feng said with a cold smile. The loose cultivator's face was bitter, and he couldn't reply. His eyes darted around for a long time, and suddenly saw the pill furnace that Zhu Yi had his eyes on. He hurriedly said, 15 yuan cultivating pills, and I'll give you this pill furnace. Your disciple had his eyes on it just now. Done. Today's luck really exploded. Lin Feng secretly made a peace sign and pretended to be polite on the surface. Then he successfully got the pill furnace. Walking out of the market, Zhu Yi looked like he wanted to say something, but was hesitant. Lin Feng looked at him and asked, do you think it's strange that I haggled with that junior for a mere few yuan cultivating pills? Zhu Yi pursed his lips and replied, disciple has some doubts in his heart. Please enlighten me, master. Lin Feng smiled leisurely. In the end, it's all about money. But you must not underestimate money. Zhui replied, although disciple has studied hard, I'm not a pedantic bookworm. But I always feel that haggling over a small profit is a bit difficult to understand. Lin Feng looked at him and said solemnly, the so-called money, in fact, contains a kind of indestructible and powerful force. Think about it, under the heavens there are far more people who ask for money than those who pray to immortals and Buddha. The word money runs through the entire human Tao and passes through the boundless world. Almost everywhere there are people, there is money. The common will of billions of people gathered together. That is a huge amount of will. Have you ever thought about this? Lin Feng gently waved his sleeves and lightly said, there is reason everywhere in the world. There is a great Tao and a small Tao. These words are not said casually. Zhu Yi was stunned by Lin Feng's words. After a long time he recovered and bowed. I will follow master's teachings. Disciple was shallow before. Lin Feng calmly nodded and walked forward with satisfaction. Zhu Yi quickly followed behind him, bringing Zhu Yi back to his residence. Lin Feng immediately took out the pill furnace and began to ponder what kind of treasure it was. Chapter 81. Lin Feng carefully observed the alchemy furnace in front of him. It had 3 legs, a pointed top, and was completely black. The furnace was engraved with faint patterns, but now it was covered in dust. It was obvious that it had not been used for a long time. Lin Feng injected his mana into it, but there was no reaction. He put in some medicinal ingredients, but there was no reaction. It really is strange. Lin Feng scratched his head. No wonder this alchemy furnace looked so old, as if it had not been used for a long time. It looked like a useless piece of trash without any spirituality. But Lin Feng did not plan to doubt Zhu Yi's luck. He entered the exchange system and opened the list to search one by one. The strange patterns on the furnace could be used as an important symbol. Hard work pays off. Lin Feng almost found an alchemy furnace at the bottom of the list. Its characteristics were very similar to the one in his hand. The outer core furnace was made from meteoric iron. During alchemy, it would produce its own flame, adding a strong fire power. Thus, it could greatly increase the success rate of alchemy. The required exchange points were 3,000 points. Lin Feng slapped his forehead. He could not wait to go next door and hug Zhu Yi and kiss him. 3,000 points. Even if he sold himself, he would not be able to gather so many exchange points. From the beginning of the system until now, including the novice gift bag, the total amount of exchange points Lin Feng had accumulated was only 2,800. Lin Feng had 700 exchange points on hand, but it was only enough to buy 1 leg of the outer core furnace. Not bad at all. Lin Feng was overjoyed, but then a question arose in his mind. If this alchemy furnace was so good, why did no one discover it? If 1 or 2 people could not discover the secret of the alchemy furnace, why could no one discover it? Carrying this doubt, Lin Feng carefully looked up the information on the furnace of the outer sky, discovering that there is a line of explanation. Only the 7 great true fires can bring out the full potential of the furnace of the outer sky. Lin Feng blinked and felt a slight bitterness in his mouth. He finally understood why others could not discover the magical use of this alchemy furnace. The 7 great true fires were the pinnacle of firepower in this world. Every single one of them could infinitely increase their power. They were boundlessly tyrannical and could destroy the heavens and earth. How could their fire seeds be so easy to obtain? Lin Feng pressed his throbbing temples and told himself to calm down. He pondered over the description of the outsky core furnace word by word. Unleashed to the limit. In other words, the spiritual fire that is slightly lower than the 7 great true fires can also be used by this pill furnace, but it will not be able to unleash its full potential. Lin Feng pondered for a while. The higher the level of the spiritual fire, the more obvious its effects are. If the level of the spiritual fire is too low, it will not be able to activate this pill furnace. Thinking of this, Lin Feng calmed down. The fury of the Akala was publicly recognized as a high-grade spirit fire, second only to the 7 great true fires. Lin Feng immediately laid down the 24 heaven Arhat formation And then according to the previous method, with the 3 flame arhats as the core, condensed the fury of the Akala. The milky white flame fell into the outer core furnace, and the furnace immediately changed. It was as if a giant that had slept for a long time had finally awoken. Around the milky white fury of the Akala, with a bang, a crimson-red flame lit up, pulsating like a powerful beating heart. Following the beating of this heart, lines of fiery red lines appeared on the walls of the furnace. At this time, the outer core furnace that was originally only the size of a palm rapidly grew in size, until it was 2 meters tall, and its diameter was also close to 2 meters before it stopped. It steadily landed on the ground. From within it an astonishing mana fluctuation leaked out. Lin Feng smiled. That heart-like crimson-red flame. It should be the so-called heart fire. Well, it really is extraordinary, the burning power of the flame. Compared to the fury of the Akala, it is not too far off. Cultivators that are good at concocting pills, the Dao techniques they train in are often fire-type Dao techniques. They need to use their own mana, and true fire, to transform into pill fire to concoct pills. Lin Feng cultivates the art of Akala. He does have pill fire, but he has never concocted pills before, so his heart couldn't help but be anxious. Placing the ingredients for concocting the sonic thunder pill into the furnace, Lin Feng began to carefully control the pill fire. Sometimes you have to admit, learning certain things really does depend on talent. Lin Feng worked himself to death, after tossing and turning for half a day. In the end, when he opened the furnace to take out the pills, what appeared in front of him was only a furnace of charcoal. Is the fire too fierce? Or is the ingredients wrong? Lin Feng scratched his head in distress. He did have a lot of ingredients, but he can't practice like this. Lin Feng furrowed his brows and thought for a moment, then a light suddenly flashed in his mind. You fellow apprentices, come to master's room. Bring your eldest apprentice brother along. Lin Feng calmly sent a sound transmission to Zhu Yi and the others next door. Then he sat cross-legged and calmly waited for his disciples to arrive. Xiao Budian was the first to push open the door and enter, looking at Lin Feng with a head full of question marks, as well as the outer sky furnace in Lin Feng's room that almost reached the roof. Behind him, Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, one in front and one behind, carried a stretcher into the room. Xiao Yin laid on the stretcher, his face pale, but his mood was still pretty good. Disciple greets master. The 4 said together. Apart from Xiao Yin, who couldn't move, the other 3 bowed together. Lin Feng lightly nodded his head, then said, Do you all see the pill furnace in front of you? The 4 nodded their heads. Zhu Yi asked, Master, this is the pill furnace from before at the market square? Lin Feng smiled slightly. This furnace is called the outer sky furnace. It has endless wonderful uses. Unfortunately, the pearl was covered in dust before. Now master has reactivated it, allowing it to reveal its original appearance. Zhu Yi clicked his tongue in wonder. It really is a magical item. Xiao Budian, who was at the side, asked, Master, did you call us here to see this pill furnace? Lin Feng shook his head, replying, No, the reason I called you guys over is to test you guys. Test us? The 4 looked at each other, then Xiao Yin, who was on the stretcher, said softly, What is the test? Master, please tell us. Lin Feng pointed at the outer sky furnace and lightly said, In order to treat Xiao Yan's injury, Master is currently refining a type of pill, but Master deliberately made a few mistakes. If we continue to refine it like this, it is destined to not be able to refine the pill. Master now wants to test you, to see if you have talent in the way of alchemy, and if you can pick out the mistakes that Master deliberately left behind. Lin Feng said seriously, and handed them the recipe of the Thunder Great Rejuvenating Pill, and also seriously explained the function of the outer sky furnace. Am I too shameless? It's just SOSO. Lin Feng thought in his heart, but his face was still sanctimonious and lightly said, You can discuss among yourselves. Master will listen on the side, and Master will know who comes up with the correct opinion. The 4 looked at each other, then gathered next to Xiao Yan's stretcher, and discussed with each other. Lin Feng secretly listened to the content of their discussion, and then compared it with his own opinion, and learned quite a lot. It had to be said that the system's judgment was very accurate. Among the four, Xiaoyan was the fastest to learn alchemy, and had the deepest understanding. As for the mistakes in Lin Feng's original alchemy method, Xiaoyan was the fastest to find, and also the most. As for whether or not it was accurate, it still needed to be verified. In the end, the other three people also took the initiative to recommend Xiaoyan to make a concluding speech. The heavenly bone grass cannot be put into the alchemy furnace. It must first be crushed into powder. The cold frost dew and the jade fire phosphorus grass must be mixed together, and then put into the alchemy furnace, and cannot be put into the alchemy furnace separately. Xiaoyan concluded, and finally hesitated for a moment, and then said, "In addition, I think we should start the furnace an hour earlier, but I dare not confirm this." Lin Feng's expression was calm, and after listening to Xiaoyan, he raised his head and asked the other three, "Do you have anything else to add?" The other three people shook their heads, and Lin Feng smiled. "You're done, no more changes?" Xiaoyan gritted his teeth. "No more changes." Lin Feng stood up and said with a smile, "Master will not make any more comments. Let the facts speak for themselves. Let's use your method to refine a furnace of alchemy, and see what the final result is." With that, he did as Xiaoyan said, processing the medicinal ingredients, and started the alchemy furnace. Lin Feng controlled the fire, and the four disciples stared closely at the alchemy furnace. Xiaoyan was especially nervous, and his palms were a little sweaty. The four of them did not know that in fact, Lin Feng was even more nervous than them, staring at the alchemy furnace. "Brat, you must do your best." Chapter 82. Inside the furnace, Akalanatha's anger and the furnace's core fire were burning together. Lin Feng carefully controlled the intensity of the fire. When the time came, he used his mana to withdraw Akalanatha's anger. Once Akalanatha's anger disappeared, the furnace's core fire was also extinguished. When the furnace was opened, a sandalwood fragrance wafted out. Golden Buddhist light surged inside the furnace. Silently, there were 8 red pills the size of a longan. Inside the house, the 5 of them sniffed. Just smelling the medicinal fragrance made them feel comfortable all over. Xiaoyan inhaled a mouthful of the fragrance. It was wrapped in his own mana and spiritual energy. His body's injuries felt numb and itchy. His injuries seemed to be gradually healing. Success! Lin Feng was relieved. Thunder Great Return Pill. It can revive the dead and regenerate flesh and bones. It has a miraculous effect in treating physical injuries. It really lives up to its reputation. Xiaoyan took a Thunder Great Return Pill. He used his mana to dissolve it, and guided the medicinal power to heal his injuries. Lin Feng saw that Xiaoyan was gradually entering a meditative state. The pill had begun to take effect. He was relieved. He turned to Xiao Budian and asked, "Where is the black iron sword that your senior apprentice brother got? Let me see." Xiao Budian held the black iron sword. Lin Feng grabbed the sword hilt. He suddenly felt his hand sink. Lin Feng was secretly surprised. "What material is it made of? It's so heavy." What was even more strange was that when the black iron sword was in his hand, Lin Feng's mana became sluggish. Lin Feng was secretly surprised. It really has some skills. He thought for a moment. He separated a strand of his consciousness and tried to explore the black iron sword. What entered his eyes was a dark void. It was quiet, but it made people's heart palpitate. A silent great fear and great shock filled Lin Feng's mind. It was as if he was in the lowest level of hell. Ong! His line of sight was completely filled with a sea of bluish-purple flames. The sudden appearance of the bluish-purple flames was like a tyrant that had been awakened, letting out a terrifying roar. The void was being torn into pieces, and the air seemed to be constantly trembling, emitting crackling sounds of explosions. The purple flames burned fiercely, flashing with an ominous blue light. It contained an incomparably powerful will, a will that mercilessly slaughtered, a will that completely destroyed all life around it. Blue light flickered in the sea of fire, and 4 characters of light appeared and pulsated. Evil Radiant Hegemon Sword. For a moment, Lin Feng even felt that his thoughts had completely stopped. The purple demonic fire roared, and surged towards Lin Feng. It was not just this trace of divine sense, but it wanted to destroy and devour Lin Feng's entire body. Lin Feng was shocked. He quickly withdrew his spiritual sense and opened his eyes. The huge black iron sword in his hand looked ordinary. It was as if the terrifying scene before was just an illusion. Bluish-purple flames, evil brilliant overlord sword. Bluish-purple flames. Lin Feng searched in the system for a moment, and then he could not help but gasp. He turned his head to look at Xiao Yan, who was still digesting the power of the thunderous Great Recover pill. This little guy really deserved to be the little cow at the level of Mr. Right. The Netherworld Evil Brilliant was one of the 7 great true fires in the world. The evil brilliant true fire that burned in the Netherworld Purgatory was extremely domineering. The 7 great true fires, in addition to having endless firepower, each had their own magical uses. However, in terms of pure destructive power, the Netherworld Evil Brilliant was known as the king of all fires. Even the other 6 great true fires had to retreat. This was the supreme demonic fire that could destroy heaven and earth. Even the great Tao of heaven and earth feared it, and suppressed it at the lowest level of the Netherworld Purgatory. Lin Feng shook his head and smiled bitterly in his heart. Good heavens, this is probably Xiao Yan's destined treasure, right? That's why I said that I also want someone to break off the engagement. After Xiao Yan digested all the power of the pill, and woke up from his meditative state, Lin Feng handed the evil brilliant overlord sword to him, and told him about the Netherworld Evil Brilliant. Xiao Yan was dumbfounded. Zhu Yi and the other 2 also opened their mouths wide. They stared blankly at the clumsy and unremarkable black iron sword in Xiao Yan's hand. Haha, we're rich. Xiao Yan, who had reacted, was overjoyed. The excitement in his heart could not be expressed in words. Xiao Budian shouted, "Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and I have contributed to buying the pill for the sword flower. We also have a share of the item." Xiao Yan glared at him. "I'll return your pill to you tomorrow." Xiao Budian complained discontentedly. Wang Lin's face was full of envy. Zhu Yi's eyes also flickered. Lin Feng looked at the jubilant Xiao Yan from the side, saying in his heart, "Looks like this kid really is fated with fire. Maybe the Emperor of Fire is his path of destiny? If that's the case, the other 6 types of true fire." Thinking up to here, Lin Feng's heart was also drooling. He hurriedly composed himself and said to Xiao Yan, "Little Yan, I've already heard your 2 junior brothers talk about the situation when you activated the power of the sword before. Looking at it now, your own cultivation is still not enough to control this demon sword." Xiao Yan's face turned bitter, and he nodded. This was the truth, and he had to admit it. Lin Feng continued, "You deserve this. You should continue to carry this sword with you for self-defense. However, don't use it easily unless it's a last resort." After a pause, Lin Feng's expression became solemn. The Nether Evil Emperor is one of the 7 great true fires. It's overbearing and mysterious. It can even be regarded as a life with its own will. Your own cultivation is not enough. If you blindly control the true fire, the final result is not that you control the fire, but that the fire controls you. You will become a fire slave, who has lost its own consciousness. You must remember this. Xiao Yan's expression became serious and he said respectfully, "I will remember Master's teachings." Lin Feng nodded and observed Xiao Yan's complexion. Although there was still some grayish-white blood loss, his injuries had already healed. As long as he recuperated for a few more days, he would immediately recover to his original state. The Thunder Great Revitalizing Pill's healing effect on physical injuries was indeed worthy of its reputation. Xiao Yan's injuries have recovered. I can also put the side mission on the agenda. I'll earn the reward to exchange for the Dao technique, and then complete the main mission. Lin Feng thought. But how could he complete 2 side missions in the stipulated time? Did he have to make a choice? Lin Feng looked at his 4 disciples who were laughing and playing around the evil Emperor Overlord sword. Suddenly he had an idea. I remember that there are some instructions in the disciple system. I haven't read them carefully. Lin Feng quickly entered the disciple system. Reading the instructions in the disciple system one by one, Lin Feng smiled when he saw one of them. If the master needs something, the disciple will do it. The host's disciple can replace the host to complete the side mission issued by the system. The mission time and conditions are the same. If the mission is successfully completed, the host will receive the mission reward as usual. Lin Feng took out the flowing wind talisman and said to Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Tiny with a smile, "Although you've suffered a little, the three of you have performed well this time. You already have the ability to take charge, but you still need to train. Master just happens to have something for you to do. Just treat it as a form of training." Lin Feng handed the flowing wind talisman to Zhu Yi. This flowing wind talisman can allow you to ride the wind. 10,000 kilometers west from here, there is a great Hengduan mountain range. At the eastern foot of the mountain range is a lake called the Sea of Wind and Thunder. This flowing wind talisman also has a thunder origin talisman that is a pair with it. Master has found that the thunder origin talisman is in the Sea of Wind and Thunder, in the Great Hengduan mountain range. Lin Feng looked at Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Tiny with Tiny. The three of you will go together to get that thunder origin talisman. On the way, the three of you will look after each other and be vigilant. If you can't find the talisman, don't be discouraged. Pay attention to protect yourselves. Xiao Yan and the other two looked at each other, their eyes revealing an excited expression. Previously, when Lin Feng wasn't here, they left Hengyu Mountain without permission to go to Chuzhou City. In the end, they almost suffered a big loss. But youngsters were always full of drive. Suffering a loss once could not erase their courage and drive. Instead, the three of them held back their strength, determined to get things done beautifully this time. Although the journey is long, and they don't have the black cloud flag, with the flowing wind talisman as a means of transportation, the journey at least won't be a problem. Lin Feng also gave the storage pouches he got from Hui Kong, Hui Ku, and Elder Vulture to the three of them. With the storage pouch that can open up an independent space, Xiao Yan can carry the evil radiant overlord sword easily. If he wants to train himself, he will carry the big sword and hurry on his way. If he doesn't want to carry it, he can just throw it into the storage pouch. Because it is in an independent space, he doesn't feel the slightest bit of its weight, so he doesn't need to bitterly carry it all the time. After sending off Xiao Yan and the other two, Lin Feng turned around and looked at Wang Lin, who was beside him. Wang Lin was also looking at his master anxiously. Lin Feng smiled. "Wang Lin, you just entered the sect. During this period of time, follow me and learn Dao techniques. Right now I also want to go to a place. If you follow me, you will also have the opportunity to gain experience." Finished speaking, Lin Feng raised the black cloud flag and swept up Wang Lin and himself, flying towards the great marsh of the ancient domain in the extreme east. Chapter 83. The Great Marsh of the Ancient Domain is located in the southeast of the continent. It was originally a wild land that no one developed. Everything within a radius of 100,000 miles is a swamp country, with all kinds of demons and poisonous plants growing everywhere. The sky above the swamp is covered in dense haze, and there is not a trace of sunlight all year round. Cultivators from all walks of life would frequently appear in such a place. They were either gathering herbs to refine pills, or capturing devils to be controlled and refined. In the eyes of cultivators, the great marsh of the ancient domain was undoubtedly a natural treasure trove bestowed by the heavens. It was truly inexhaustible, and it was even to the extent that those who were lucky might encounter a pleasant surprise. However, the great marsh of the ancient domain is just too big. So many people are like a drop in the ocean. It is rare for them to meet face to face, and they are often able to live in harmony. Miasma lingers in the great marsh, and does not disperse all year round. It has already occupied the place for over 10,000 years, seriously disturbing the flow of spiritual energy here. It is 100 times more complicated than the Black Cloud Underground Palace that suppresses the Nether Blood River. Not to mention Foundation Establishment Stage and Golden Elixir Period cultivators. Even if a Yuanying stage-old monster comes in, it would be very difficult to discover his whereabouts. It is precisely because of this that Lin Feng dares to swagger into the Great Marsh. After all, strictly speaking, The Great Marsh of the ancient domain belongs to the Great Zhou dynasty. The Marquis of Xuanji can practically be considered half a home in the Great Zhou dynasty. Lin Feng just got rid of the second steward of the Marquis of Xuanji's family, and then charged into their backyard. If it wasn't for the special terrain of the Great Marsh of the ancient domain, he would just be waiting to be hunted down. But this kind of complicated terrain undoubtedly greatly increased the difficulty for Lin Feng to find the galaxy sand. Searching blindly is no different than fishing for a needle in the ocean. The system only mentioned that the Great Marsh of the ancient domain produces galaxy sand, but it doesn't have a specific location. How should I find it? Lin Feng controlled the black cloud flag to descend from the sky. In front of him is a swamp quagmire. Some of them are constantly emitting bubbles. Some of them look normal, but are actually even more dangerous. If a person who doesn't know stepped in, they would no longer be able to think of coming back up. Lin Feng carefully distinguished and landed on a relatively dry piece of land. Looking at the 10,000-mile swamp country in front of him, he couldn't help but be a bit worried. Wang Lin also had a bitter expression as he asked, "Master, how should we find galaxy sand? I want to know too." Lin Feng smiled bitterly in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. He said calmly, "Finding the galaxy sand is just a small matter. The more important thing for this trip is to temper you." Lin Feng turned to look at Wang Lin and slowly said, "You should know that your aptitude isn't outstanding." Wang Lin lowered his head. Master's words could be considered as caring for his pride. He himself knew that his innate talent was not only not outstanding, it was simply terrible, even worse than the average person. Thus, since he'd entered the sect, Wang Lin had been painstakingly cultivating, and with the assistance of the underworld pearl, he could be considered to have achieved some results. However, when compared to the speed at which Xiao Yan and the other two were improving every single day, his improvement was simply small to the point of being negligible. Being in the same sect as these three monstrous geniuses, the pressure on Wang Lin was even greater than when he was in the Heng Yu sect. Even though his willpower was incomparably firm, his confidence was still greatly affected, and he could only work even harder. Lin Feng said, "It is precisely because of this that Master wants you to undergo more tempering, more tempering. You have very good potential. You are a good piece of jade, but you need more tempering than the average person to make you shine with astonishing brilliance. Perhaps this tempering will make you feel very bitter." Lin Feng said word by word, "Master believes that you will succeed in the end." Wang Lin's heart warmed and he nodded. Disciple will definitely work hard and not disappoint Master's expectations. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction and pointed at the boundless swamp in front of them. "This ancient region's great swamp will be your first training ground. Although it is difficult to find the galaxy sand here, you must remember that the galaxy sand is only a secondary goal. The key is that you must learn from it and obtain tempering. Your other three senior and junior martial brothers have entered the sect for a long time and have the ability to protect themselves. So Master let them go out to train. However, your current strength is still insufficient, so Master will follow you this time to protect you." Lin Feng continued, "Tempering is not throwing away your life. If there is really any danger, Master will naturally lend a hand. However, as for other matters, including finding the galaxy sand, you must solve them yourself. Only then will you be able to exercise. Is that clear?" Wang Lin bowed and said, "Disciple understands, Master, please rest assured." After successfully tricking Wang Lin, Lin Feng's face revealed a satisfied smile. Although Wang Lin had not matured yet, and the search for the galaxy sand in this boundless swamp still depended on Lin Feng. However, Wang Lin's good fortune of reaching 8 would be of great help. At the very least, he wouldn't return empty-handed, right? Not to mention, those words just now were not said for nothing. Compared to the other three, Wang Lin is limited by the fact that he only has an innate bone of 5. The beginning of his training will be extremely difficult. Even though he has the support of a mental strength of 10, Lin Feng as his master also has to frequently encourage him. This would help to deepen the relationship between master and disciple, and at the same time, create a glorious image of himself in his disciple's heart. Therefore, the search mode changed into Wang Lin, who was carefully exploring the path step by step, and Lin Feng, who was pretending to be profound, followed behind him. However, Lin Feng was not completely idle. Although the spiritual energy in the great swamp was chaotic, he could still barely perceive it at a close distance. And this man of fluctuation, is it a foundation establishment stage cultivator? While walking, Lin Feng suddenly felt a strong mana fluctuation. It was near him. After seeing the old monsters of the Yuanying stage and the cultivators of the Golden Elixir period, the foundation establishment cultivators could no longer attract Lin Feng's attention. Although compared to them, Lin Feng, who was only at the peak of the qi refining stage, still had a big gap in magic power. It was like the difference between a river and the ocean. However, with Lin Feng's current strength, the majority of the foundation establishment cultivators were really not in his eyes, unless the other party also had a powerful magic tool or a trump card. Apart from the foundation establishment cultivator, there are also a few qi refining stage cultivators. Silently sensing for a moment, Lin Feng had an idea in his heart. He secretly transmitted his voice to Wang Lin. Little Lin, go forward a few hundred meters, and you will encounter a foundation establishment cultivator and a few qi refining stage cultivators. Master will not show himself. If there is anything, you can deal with it yourself. Interacting with people is also a kind of training. Wang Lin heard this and nodded. Lin Feng slowed down, getting farther and farther away from Wang Lin. The miasma in the great swamp was thick. It seriously affected vision. Lin Feng did not use his magic power, and with the system's concealment, no one could find his traces if he was far away. The two sides were already very close. The thick mist dispersed, revealing 4 figures. The first to attract Lin Feng's attention was definitely a middle-aged man in a hemp robe, because he was the foundation establishment cultivator Lin Feng sensed before. This person was thin and tall. It was like a bamboo pole holding up the hemp robe on his body. There were also 2 young men in tight clothes. Both of them were at the qi refining stage. The 2 of them, together with the middle-aged man in the hemp robe, surrounded a young man in fine clothes. Even though the well-dressed youth is only at the qi disciple stage, he is clearly the leader of the group. Looking at his expression and attitude, Lin Feng knows that this kid is the legendary second generation X. That middle-aged man in the hemp robe should have been sent by his family to protect him. The young man had a gloomy expression. If I knew the great swamp was so boring, I wouldn't have come in. A follower behind him said with a fawning smile. Young noble, the main reason we came here this time is to earn merits. The young man said impatiently. I know, do I need you to tell me that? 3,000 elites from the Xinwu army are here to capture the rebels. With so many people sharing the rewards, how many rebels can I get? 3,000 soldiers to capture a rebel? Lin Feng, who was hiding in the distance, heard their conversation and thought. Looks like someone rebelled against the Great Zhou dynasty and escaped into the Great Swamp, trying to use the natural barrier of the Great Swamp to hide from the pursuers. The middle-aged man's skinny face revealed a faint smile. Young noble Shui, although many people came this time, the Great Swamp's terrain is naturally limited. Only a few people can obtain anything. Shui Chao still maintained a certain level of respect towards the middle-aged man and nodded. Mr. Ma is right. Mr. Ma continued. Moreover, their families have retreated into the Great Lake of Ancient Domain along with the traders. It's very easy to capture these people. It's practically a free contribution. Shui Chao became spirited. That's right. They had been using telepathy, but they didn't know that Lin Feng could clearly hear them. Now that the conversation was over, the 4 of them looked at Wang Lin with interest. Wang Lin cupped his fists. I'm Wang Lin, greetings seniors. Only the second stage of qi refinement? Shui Chao rolled his eyes and turned around without looking at Wang Lin. The skinny Mr. Ma didn't have any interest in talking either. A youth behind Shui Chao said with a smile. You're quite bold to enter the Great Swamp with only the second stage of qi refinement. Wang Lin answered in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. I came here to train under my master's order to find something called galaxy sand. I wonder if seniors have heard of it? I'll be very grateful if you can tell me. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Lin was shocked to see the four people's expressions change and staring at him. The youth who had asked the question earlier asked, "Are you looking for the galaxy sand?" Lin Feng, who was in the dark, frowned slightly. Wang Lin also felt that something was wrong, carefully answering, "That's right." The finely dressed youth, Xue Chao, waved his hand. "Take this person down first." Chapter 84. You're looking for galaxy sand? Yes. Hearing Wang Lin's answer, Xue Chao didn't say anything else and waved his hand. Capture this kid first. Wang Lin's heart sank. He didn't expect that after just a few words, the other party would act against him. Could it be that these people are also looking for galaxy sand? Wang Lin couldn't figure it out, but he didn't have much time to think about it. A young man in a tight suit behind Xue Chao was already walking towards him. The other party didn't hide his magic power fluctuations. Even Wang Lin could judge that this was an enemy he couldn't deal with. Chi Disciple Level 8. Wang Lin was at Chi Disciple Level 2. Even 10 of him together couldn't defeat a Chi Disciple Level 8 cultivator. The difference in cultivation between the two sides was too big. Seeing that Lin Feng didn't move, Wang Lin thought, "Does Master want to test me?" Wang Lin calmed down and calmly looked at the young man in a tight suit walking over. The other party obviously didn't think that a little cultivator at Chi Disciple Level 2 could pose any threat to him. This person's attitude aroused Wang Lin's fighting spirit. Whether I can beat him or not is one thing, whether I have the courage to fight is another. Thinking of this, Wang Lin calmed down and silently watched the opponent approach. The young man in a tight suit saw that Wang Lin was scared silly and didn't move. He couldn't help but laugh. "If you're smart, you don't have to suffer." After saying that, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the air. His magic power turned into an invisible big hand and shrouded Wang Lin. Suddenly, the air around Wang Lin's body seemed to solidify and press down on Wang Lin, making it difficult for him to breathe. However, Wang Lin wasn't surprised. Instead, he was happy, because he could see that the opponent didn't take him seriously at all. This grab didn't even use any magic. It was purely using his own magic power to grab Wang Lin. The movement was so casual, leaving his body wide open and full of flaws. Not only did this person think that Wang Lin posed no threat to him, but he also didn't think that Wang Lin had the guts to resist. Wang Lin secretly took a deep breath, but he still did not act rashly. Silently, he waited for the invisible giant hand formed from the opponent's transcendence energy to reach him. The well-dressed young man became more relaxed. Well, let alone the fact that we have Mr. Ma who is in the laying foundation stage to hold the line. Even if we don't, a little guy who is only in the second level of Lianqi realm can only be captured obediently. Who would have thought that at the moment when he was at his most relaxed state of mind, Wang Lin would suddenly move? Just as the hand made of magic power was about to grab him, Wang Lin suddenly took a step forward and stretched out both of his hands. Wang Lin pinched a spell with his left hand and pointed his right index finger at the young man in front of him. The well-dressed young man was stunned. He saw a very fine black gas shoot out from Wang Lin's right index finger. It turned into a fine line and shot towards him. This black line was like a knife cutting tofu. It easily pierced through the invisible giant hand formed by the young man's transcendence energy. The condensed transcendence energy did not cause any hindrance to the black line. It just let the black line pass through without any resistance. Just when the well-dressed young man was slightly stunned, the black line had already shot in front of him. Lin Feng, who was at the back, saw this scene and suddenly laughed silently. He deliberately did not show up, because he really wanted to observe the specific performance of Wang Lin when he was in trouble. The result made Lin Feng very satisfied. The opponent suddenly turned hostile. Although Wang Lin was surprised, he did not panic. Facing an opponent who was much stronger than him, he calmly seized the opportunity and suddenly made a move when the enemy was at the most careless. It was a magical power derived from the Netherworld Nirvana technique, the Netherworld Finger. After Lin Feng taught it to him, Wang Lin had obviously practiced it with all his heart. When he pointed his finger, the transcendence energy combined with the breath of the netherworld real water, condensed into a fine line. It was almost invincible. Although the opponent's transcendence energy cultivation was much higher than Wang Lin's, the netherworld real water breath's special effect of purifying the transcendence energy of others was exerted and directly pierced through the opponent's transcendence energy giant hand. Looking at the shocked face of the well-dressed young man, Wang Lin suddenly trembled. Although he appeared calm, this was after all the first time he fought with someone. Thinking of the consequences of killing this person, Wang Lin could not help but hesitate. With such a slight hesitation, the black line formed by the transcendence energy of the netherworld finger suddenly trembled and became not so stable. Lin Feng frowned and felt that it was not good. In the opponent's camp, Mr. Ma's eyebrows trembled and he felt relieved. Sure enough, the black line trembled a little and slowed down a bit. The well-dressed young man had already reacted and dangerously tilted his head to avoid the netherworld finger of Wang Lin. Xue Chao and his other follower were stunned and showed an expression of interest. Obviously, they did not expect that the well-dressed young man would almost fail miserably. Mr. Ma's eyes fell on Wang Lin. After all, he was a cultivator in the foundation-building realm, so he was far more sensitive to the fluctuation of transcendence energy than cultivators in the training Qi realm. Although he did not think that Wang Lin would have the guts to resist at first, he immediately noticed it as soon as Wang Lin made a move. Mr. Ma did not expect that the netherworld finger of Wang Lin could be so overbearing. No matter how careless the well-dressed young man was, he was, after all, at the 8th level of the training Qi realm, which was much higher than Wang Lin. He did not expect that his defense would be directly broken by Wang Lin. The gap between their realms was really too big. Besides the well-dressed young man's great surprise, Wang Lin's subtle and overbearing magic was also an important reason to make up for this. Mr. Ma began to be interested in Wang Lin. Lin Feng sighed and said in his heart, although he is destined to grow up to be the one who kills decisively, it is the first time for him to fight with a human. He cannot be as cold-blooded as a robot. Although he had dodged Wang Lin's netherworld finger, the well-dressed young man also felt ashamed. His whole face suddenly turned red, and he stared at Wang Lin fiercely. He was really irritated by Wang Lin. The well-dressed young man suddenly put his palms together, and the mist in the air quickly gathered toward him and turned into a ferocious water dragon in front of his chest. Then, the dragon rushed toward Wang Lin with its fangs and claws. At this moment, Wang Lin was also regretting in his heart. He hesitated for a moment, but the snake did not die. Now the poisonous snake was going to bite back. Be merciless when you fight, and be merciful when you don't fight. If I fight with someone again, I must do my best and never give the opponent a chance to fight back. With a gloomy face, Wang Lin had made up his mind. Facing the opponent's fierce spell, Wang Lin was not afraid at all. His hands formed a seal, and his mind communicated with the netherworld pearl. Even if Lin Feng had all the treasures in his hands, none of them could be a match for the netherworld pearl. Among the treasures that he had come into contact with, perhaps only the evil radiant overlord sword could fight with it. However, it was greatly damaged, and a lot of its power could not be exerted. With Wang Lin's current cultivation, he could not exert 1/10 of the netherworld pearl's power. However, he had sacrificed this treasure and cultivated the netherworld nirvana technique, so he could barely drive the netherworld pearl. Coincidentally, the opponent used a water spell. The netherworld true water was one of the 6 great true waters of the supreme water of water. It seemed to be angered by the water dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in front of it. Following Wang Lin's thought, the netherworld pearl slowly flew up and emitted a circle of dim yellow light in the air. As soon as the water dragon came into contact with the yellow light, it immediately collapsed. The well-dressed young man was dumbfounded. Xue Chao was also stunned. When he looked at the netherworld pearl again, his eyes suddenly revealed a greedy desire. Chapter 85. As soon as the underworld pearl appeared, it immediately broke the opponent's water spell. Xuechao's brows furrowed, and then relaxed. Greed appeared in his eyes. Mr. Ma, I want this treasure. Please help me, and I'll reward you generously afterward. Mr. Ma, who was as thin as a bamboo pole, looked at Wang Lin and then at the underworld pearl. I don't want to bully the weak. Young Master Xue, you can take down this brat by yourself. I'll help you fight against his treasure. Young Master, you can show off your skills. Hearing Mr. Ma's words, Xuechao laughed. With your words, I'm relieved. After saying that, Xuechao suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a cloud of white smoke. Go! The white smoke drifted and flew toward Wang Lin. It looked slow, but in fact, it had already arrived in front of Wang Lin in the blink of an eye. Wang Lin's face was calm. He used his heart to control the underworld pearl. The pearl shone brightly. As soon as the white smoke came into contact with the dim yellow halo, it stopped and couldn't move forward. At this time Mr. Ma coughed. Rise! Before his voice died away, countless vines suddenly grew from under Wang Lin's feet and swayed toward Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin was shocked. The underworld pearl's light shone on the dense vines under his feet. Under the light, the vines withered one after another. However, new vines emerged endlessly from the ground. The speed of their growth was faster than the speed of their withering. More and more vines appeared. Seeing that Mr. Ma's spell had restrained the underworld pearl, Xuechao was satisfied and laughed. Such a treasure is just a waste in your hands. Give it to me. As he spoke, the white smoke rushed toward the underworld pearl again. Wang Lin tightly pursed his lips. His left hand pinched a spell in front of his chest, and his right index finger pointed toward the white smoke. A black line shot straight toward Xuechao's white smoke. Xuechao sneered. Little bastard, do you really think you can overturn the heavens? After seeing Wang Lin's overbearing underworld finger, Xuechao was already more careful. He was originally at the 10th level of Qi disciple stage, and this time, he was going all out. Although the transcendence energy of the underworld finger could still purify and dispel the white smoke was extremely condensed. Wang Lin's finger only managed to purify 10 to 20% of the white smoke. Wang Lin's face was slightly pale. To him now, underworld finger consumed a lot of mana. His mana at Qi disciple stage 2 was really not much. Xuechao laughed heartily and said, This treasure is this young master's. As he spoke, the white smoke had already swept up the underworld pearl. At that moment, a golden Buddhist light suddenly lit up and protected the underworld pearl. When the white smoke came into contact with the Buddhist light, it couldn't advance even half a step. The Buddhist light transformed into a glittering swastika pattern. As it rotated, it deflected Xuechao's white smoke to the side. It was no longer a threat to the underworld pearl. In the mist, Lin Feng walked out slowly with a calm expression. He wore a white robe with wide sleeves, a feather robe and a star crown, and he had the demeanor of a sage-like expert. Wang Lin immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Master! Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything. At this moment, he was recalling the minor reincarnation technique that he had just cast. Although I have the Divine Ability Analyzer, which allows me to cultivate the technique in a short time, I still need to practice more if I want to use the technique as I wish. It's best if I can fight with someone in actual combat. Just now I gained a few more insights. While pondering, Lin Feng looked at Xuechao and the others and thought, I have to ask them clearly why they turned hostile when they heard about the galaxy sand. Perhaps they know the whereabouts of the galaxy sand? As he thought about it, Lin Feng asked, Do you know the whereabouts of the galaxy sand? Xuechao and the others didn't answer. Instead, they all had a strange expression on their faces as they stared at Lin Feng and Wang Lin. Lin Feng was puzzled. Wearing the wrong clothes. That's right, it's the same outfit. On the other side, Xuechao suddenly burst into laughter, convulsing with laughter. He laughed strangely and said, You're just a cultivator at the peak of the Qi disciple realm, yet you dare to put on an act in front of me. What a joke. He stared at Lin Feng and snorted coldly. You have some treasure on you that can conceal your cultivation, right? If you didn't make a move, I wouldn't have been able to see through you. But that technique you used just now completely exposed your true strength. Mr. Ma also laughed and shook his head. You're dressed like a Taoist, yet you used a Buddhist technique. Since it's so impure, you must be a loose cultivator, right? The smile on his skinny face gradually disappeared. A loose cultivator without a sect or sect. And your cultivation is only at the 12th level of the Qi disciple realm. Who gave you the courage to speak like this? Hearing this, Lin Feng was speechless. Wang Lin, who was next to him, looked at Xue Chao's group of 4 as if they were idiots. The young man who was previously careless and almost defeated by Wang Lin had been glaring at Wang Lin. Now that he saw Wang Lin's expression, he was even angrier. He coldly said, "Ignorant little bastard, is this your master? Are you blind? Do you think a loose cultivator at the 12th level of the Qi disciple realm can protect you? Why don't you take a look at who you've provoked?" Another young man said with a smile, "This is our young master Xue Chao, the legitimate son of the great Zhou dynasty's Xue clan. I wonder if you, a wild Taoist from the mountains, have heard of him." Lin Feng's expression was calm. He chuckled. "I've only heard that the great Qin dynasty has 4 great clans. The great Zhou dynasty used to have quite a few cultivation clans, so it could be considered a bit interesting. But in recent years, the imperial power of the great Zhou dynasty has been unprecedentedly centralized, and most of the so-called clans have disappeared." "The Xue clan? Haven't heard of them? The new nouveau riche?" Xue Chao's expression turned cold. "Just because of what you said, don't even think about leaving this place alive." Mr. Ma, who was next to him, looked at Lin Feng and shook his head with pity. "You still dare to talk nonsense here? You really don't know the meaning of death." With that, he released all of his magic power without any concealment, completely revealing his foundation-building cultivation. "Young Master Xue, I'll say it again. I don't want to bully the weak. A Qi disciple insect isn't worth my time." Mr. Ma faintly smiled. "This person is so arrogant, so he might have some tricks up his sleeves. But don't worry, just attack. I'll take care of whatever tricks he has up his sleeves." Xue Chao sneered. "So what if he has tricks up his sleeves? The 3,000 experts of the great Zhou dynasty's Shenwu army are all here, and General Xie is nearby. How can we let him do anything? This person's origin is unknown. Although he's pretending to be a Taoist, his spells are of the Buddhist path. It's very likely that he's a remnant of the Thunderclap Temple." Xue Chao coldly said, "Capturing a remnant of a traitor like him is also a merit. According to the laws of the great Zhou dynasty, anyone who resists arrest will be killed without mercy." At this point, Xue Chao clapped his hands together, and a long sword flew out from his back, flowing with light and vibrant colors. Impressively, it is a foundation establishment stage sword, drawing a long rainbow in midair and circling above Lin Feng's head. Xue Chao coldly said, "Immediately kneel down and surrender. Hand over that pearl, and I'll only cripple your cultivation and spare your life." The 2 young men behind him glanced at each other and laughed. This guy still dares to put on airs in front of young master. He really doesn't know the meaning of death. Young master is still too soft-hearted. Such a bold madman can be killed with one sword strike. Even if he has some tricks up his sleeves, how can he beat Mr. Ma, who's at the foundation building level? Mr. Ma can step on him like he's a bug. Without Mr. Ma, he'll still die. Young master still has a trump card that you haven't used yet." Listening to their discussion and looking at the flying sword circling above his head, Lin Feng was momentarily speechless. He dusted his sleeves and looked at the sword circling above his head. "I don't want to bully the weak. You're at the Qi refinement stage, so I only used my Qi refinement stage cultivation before. I didn't expect you juniors to look down on me." Lin Feng slightly looked up and his eyes turned cold. "Do you know the consequences of using a sword in front of me? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.